Hula, and welcome to the Once Upon an Island podcast, number 2 on the charts, number 1 in your hearts. I'm your host, Wesley, and of course, I am joined by my cheerful co-host,
Rebekah.
I should have mentioned this during Survivor 51 Rumors and Twists podcast we did the other day, Rebekah, which we actually recorded 10 minutes ago. But for those listening, it was the other day. Yes.
Yeah.
The merch with for season 50 that we made, it's exclusive. It's done at the end of May. If you want to get it, link in the description. It will not be sold after May 31st. We're closing up shop and going to do a new design for 51 if we do more merch. So get that while you can. It is literally going out of style, I guess. Today, Rebekah, you and I are going to rank all of the new era seasons, not open era, new era seasons.
Right. Not the new era, just the new era. Right. Okay.
If you haven't heard our thoughts on 51, we did drop a podcast on YouTube a couple of days ago. And of course, our winner rankings are probably already on Patreon, which I did with Mary. I haven't actually recorded them as of the time you're hearing this voice, but if you're hearing this on YouTube, it's already on Patreon. It's very confusing in my mind, the timeline, but for everyone listening, that should be very clear.
Time is an illusion, so...
Time is a flat circle. So today, Rebekah and I are going to rank the entire new era, though Mary and Madison gave me their rankings for the new era with no context. No context for the rankings.
Yes.
And I took all 4 of our rankings, which will be in the description below, and made an overall rankings from our 4 rankings. If you yourself, the listener of this podcast, would like to rate every season and help contribute to make the spoiler-free season rankings that we do every single year here on the channel since 2022, form will be pinned in the pin. It'll be in the pinned comment. You can fill it out. And if you're like, oh, I'll fill it out, but I really want to just rank all 50 seasons and 50 winners in the way I want. There is a bonus question at the end for more clarity. You can do that. Rebekah and I were literally just talking about this before we started recording. So feel free, go ahead and do that. It doesn't require, there's no membership needed, but the video will come from that. That form closes on June 3rd. So keep that in mind. Now, Rebekah, we're going to go through every new era season in chronological order, but so that people can just pick which seasons they want to listen to. Not everybody wants to hear thoughts on certain seasons. Some seasons are like, oh,
sure.
I'm over hearing about this season. So we're going to go through chronological, but we're going to rank each of them as we go. So I don't want to waste too much time as we do that. Let's do this, Rebekah. Starting with
Let's do it.
Survivor 41, the dawn of a new era, Rebekah.
Yeah. Drop the 4, keep the 1. Am I right?
Drop the 4, keep the 1. The first episode was literally called A New Era. And with that, we were introduced to a lot of things we were not expecting. I think that some of the fan base has not gotten over.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's definitely things that have still very much impacted the modern or the new era of Survivor, because a lot of these things, not all the things, but a lot of the things were reoccurring throughout the 40s and even 50. Like Journeys, for example, was a new thing that was introduced in 41. 18
players on 3 tribes.
Yes, right. Yeah, so understandable that, this is still something that's very relevant to the conversation of what, even new seasons of Survivor.
Shot in the Dark, Journeys, these were all new.
Yep.
Some of them lasted throughout the whole new era.
Yeah, really just throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks, truly.
That's the best way to describe it.
Yeah. And most things stuck. There were a couple things like the hourglass twist. I forget what they called it, like turning back time or whatever.
If I could turn back time.
Yeah. That only lasted for a couple seasons, obviously, for the best, in my opinion. Was only 2 seasons, but then it got rebranded for 50. Yes, right.
Right. With Mr. Beast coin flip. Yeah. Yeah. So I think, honestly, I guess just to kind of get into my thoughts on this season, I feel like it was a just double whammy of them having less time, because this was also, just as a reminder for, if you don't remember, this was coming right off of COVID. So they had, they'd been forced to delay production for a while. A year and a half break after Winners at War. People were hyped, Rebekah.
Right. And Winners at War, I mean, just it's so interesting to think back on this time of Survivor, because Winners at War was, in my opinion, a pretty good season. I know people have different opinions about it, but I enjoyed that season a lot. And then also I think there was just such a resurgence to the fan base, because during the lockdown, like a lot of people discovered Survivor for the first time or rediscovered it, discovered, oh, the show is still airing. Okay, cool. I watched this as a kid or whatever. And so I think there was a lot of eyes on season 41. There were a lot of new people coming in and like, okay, this, during the lockdown, I've binged all these old seasons. We were coming right off of Winners at War. So there was a lot of hype coming into this season. But I do really think one of its, like the big, if I could just summarize its issues, I think it got hit with a double whammy of they had shorter seasons because this is where we switched from 39 days to 26 days because of, them having to quarantine because, again, COVID was still kind of a thing at this time. So they're adding all these advantages, all these new twists and new elements to the game.
With no regard
while at
for
the same
pacing.
time, and at the same time, they have fewer days. So, I'm sure that they were antsy coming out of, they had to wait for a year and a half, like you said, because of COVID. Like they just weren't able to film as soon as they wanted to. So I'm sure they were antsy. I'm sure they had tons of time to come up with all these ideas. But I really think this season, and season 42, but especially this one, just suffers from throwing so much at the wall with less time. And just, it just ended up being a lot. I want to say chaos, but like normally I'm a fan of chaos, but this was just like chaos to a confusing level. So it wasn't as entertaining, if that makes sense.
And it's impossible not to mention, Rebekah, that the show decided to take a political stance that they did through 42 as well. We'll talk about 42 in its own segment, but it's impossible not to mention because the season starts with, dropping guys, but not just dropping it, making a moment of it. And to this day, people still comment on social media and even on my video. I don't even control the show on my videos, come on in guys. And that the show has gone woke. That's quite a few people say this every day, daily. It's hard to ignore. It's been flipping 4.5 years since this happened, and people are it's still affecting people. Though I would think something you didn't like / don't care for, you'd kind of be over by now, but man, a lot of people are not over it.
It's one of those things that like, I don't know, I get Survivor like wanting to use their platform or whatever, but that phrase specifically is such an iconic line from the show. I mean, I'd almost put it up there with Jeff saying the tribe has spoken. I mean, it's like an iconic line from the show that you hear every single episode at least once. And so, I think it, that's fine. They can do whatever they want. They can change it if they want to, but it is understandable that people are like, oh, this thing that was such an iconic part of the show is suddenly missing. And so it is like, you kind of notice its absence. So I understand people still quoting it and still remembering it as just being such a big part of the show.
Yeah. I think part of 41 that will forever stick with me is not that they made mistakes, because it's a show made by humans. Mistakes are going to be made. It's the fact that they doubled down on it. People were like, no, we don't like this. And Jeff's like, well, screw you, like screw you all. But then Rebekah, magically, by the time we get to 43, nowhere to be seen. These,
they changed some things.
It's so strange because here's how and I've thought about this today after 50, because it's like the show, it's so weird. It's the opposite of how it normally works. Normally an organization does something, people don't like it, and then the organization apologizes, but then usually does it anyways. Survivor does something, people get mad about it, and the cycle's the opposite. They're like, no, screw you, we're going to do it anyways. If anything, we're going to do it harder next time. And then they don't do it.
They quietly change.
They quietly don't do it anymore. And they don't ever acknowledge that. So like the opposite, where the organization acknowledges it and says we'll change and then doesn't change. Survivor is like, screw you, we're not changing nothing. You can't change our minds about anything. Kind of like a teenager. And then realizing that without us, the show doesn't make money. They change it, but they don't acknowledge that they changed it. And so I feel like so many things this season were that way, where the show doubled down on it and then quietly over the course of the new era just didn't do them anymore, or didn't acknowledge them anymore, make a thing out of them anymore. Now, so guys is not said ever anymore. And Jeff acknowledged during 43 on a podcast, in a rare moment of being like, I was wrong, saying, he basically said that it was a podcast run by Merry and Pippin from Lord of the Rings. Sorry, I don't know their names off the top of my head. But it was a podcast that only ran for like a year. Anyways, he was on the podcast and he said that we screwed up making guys a moment. He's like, we should have just dropped it and not made it a moment. And it's like, yes, like you can change things. Yeah. But like, that's one of those things where if you didn't make it a thing, people might have noticed it, but it wouldn't have been because it was so like in your face. Like he says on the show, like you got an issue with it, tweet at me. I'm not going to read your tweet anyways. It's like, that's the defiance, like the teenager, like defiance that like gets people riled up. Cause I remember on the boat, Evie, if I'm hoping I'm saying the names right. Evie's like, no issue with that. And then Ricard, a guy, says, no, I have an issue with it. And it's not Ricard's fault, by the way. But the show makes it seem like Ricard single-handedly changed the rule.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say Jeff telling people to tweet at him if they're mad is actually hilarious. I love that. That energy is so funny to just be like, yeah, I'm going to stand 10 toes down on this thing, like tweet at me. Maybe don't do it in the show, but like just that attitude is really funny. I think my thing with all of this is like, especially because this aired the fall of 2021. Do I have that correct?
Yeah.
So, you know, a relatively tumultuous time. And I think my issue with this is like, again, I get Survivor wanting to use their platform and I totally understand
the
that.
The diversity initiative, we didn't even mention that had started with 41.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is fine. That's not my issue with diversity. My issue is,
of course,
location diversity.
Yeah, for sure. But I think my thing was, I remember just like turning on the TV and like, I was just so exhausted for like this whole 3-year period or whatever. I'm still tired. I don't know. But like I think just turning on my TV and like it was what I was doing at the end of the day to unwind. Like I just wanted to kind of mindlessly watch TV. And I think a lot of people feel that way, is like that's what we turn to entertainment for. And I'm not saying that you can never say anything with your entertainment, but I think that's where they kind of got into a sticky situation where it's like, okay, so now I'm watching this show that is normally like supposed to be very relaxing and just like about surviving on an island, and it's reminding me of things that are real, and like I don't know, it wasn't as it made it less fun to watch because I was just like thinking about things that were real instead of just again getting to watch these characters on TV live an experience that I've never experienced before, you know. And I think a lot of people felt that way, which is why there was so much backlash at the time. So
it's hard to get if you binge that now without being there when it was live, because when it's live, I think is such a huge factor on why it's viewed the way it is now. Whereas in a binge, it goes by so fast, 42-minute episodes, who the heck is the winner until episode 10, I feel like is a big factor. Of course, we'll leave that for winner rankings, but like, who is Erica? Like episode 4. So it's like so much happens, but like in a binge, you're like, that was fine. Like it was like, that was a very, it was a pizza. I had a pizza.
Yeah.
It was fine. It wasn't a special pizza, but at the time it was a year and a half of buildup after Winners at War. This is what we're coming back to. And so much had changed, and they decided to take a political stance. And like, I think the season already had enough that change for us as the audience to deal with. And they started off with that. And then it was just so advantage heavy. And there was like literally a journey every single, a summit journey, I think is what they were doing that season, every single episode. Yeah. And then of course, whether you like certain aspects of the cast or not, like it was very much brought up that race is a huge factor for the cast. And again, whether you're for it or against it, it was a massive thing. And it's just, as you said, it was very heated political time in a way where it's like you couldn't escape it during the day. So then you go watch Survivor and it's like, like it doesn't matter which side you're on. It's just exhausting in a sense, which is unfortunate because I think in a binge, it's probably an okay season, especially now having watched the entire new era. But at the time, I don't think a lot of people rewatched the season because it was just like, this is not what we wanted out of the show.
That's my thing is like a big factor in my rankings here is like, or one of the factors is, do I want to rewatch this season?
Right.
And I think that season is just so associated with that time in my mind that I'm like, I don't really want to go back there. Like, I'm okay. But even like you were saying, they're throwing so many like twists, advantages, all those things. They also had the game within a game.
That I liked.
That was fine.
Good. Yes.
But it is, again, like you're saying, just these short episodes and there's so much exposition. Like they're trying to explain so much to
Jeff
us.
Started talking way too much during the season to us.
Yes. Yes. And that's, it was just they were introducing so many new elements that it was like, I think if they would have trickled some of these things in, it would have been received a lot better as opposed to just all at once, everything is different. It almost felt like a different show in a lot of ways.
Well, Rebekah, where do you have it ranked?
So I have it ranked at number 10. Yep. Imagine if I said like number 1 or something after all that.
You're like, it only gets worse from here, kids.
Yeah. No, it's number 10 for me. Like I said, kind of my factors are like, do I like the winner, memorable players, like was the season fun to watch? And then do I want to rewatch this season?
And it's not that we don't like the winner, it's just the story was so unsatisfyingly told.
Yes, absolutely. Because I think Erica's fine, but like you said, I just didn't really know who she was for half of the season, which is not her fault. But yeah, so for all of those reasons, I have it ranked at number 10.
Erica's in the editing booth like, no, don't show me. Don't show me.
Yeah.
I have it ranked at 10. Mary has it ranked 10. Madison has it ranked at 10, which means overall it's ranked 10th. That was a pretty easy number 10.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad we're all aligned on that.
There's so much like looking through the twist/changes section of this wiki on Survivor Wiki is like, it's intense.
It's wild.
The amount of twists/changes. And I gotta say, almost every twist is a change. Like is a change. Mm-hmm. The fact that they had to like link, like here's for the first time ever, we're talking about Shot in the Dark journeys, vote steals, knowledge is power, which by the way, knowledge is power, I think was unfairly criticized, including me. I unfairly criticized. I think it ended up being fun, but it doesn't get fun till 43, which we'll talk about when we get there. Beware advantages, double tribal council, but in this case, it's that one's okay. We're sending 2 tribes to tribal. That was fine because it's not splitting up a merge group.
It happened early, like pre-merge. Yeah,
they did that, but then this season it introduced the split tribal council that nobody's ever liked, do or die, which they got rid of. So. Yeah. Anyways, let's move on to Survivor 42. So I say this every time we do New Era rankings. I say it almost any time I talk about 42. Again, remember, the show does not acknowledge when they listen to our feedback and changes, which is just the opposite of what anyone else does. They double down on things that we complain about. Remember, we talked about Zach Brown during 50. Everybody was like, it's way too much Zach Brown. The idea was fine. It was like way too long and unnecessary. Jeff's like, I wish we had done more Zach Brown, and I wish we had added twists in the like. He literally came out like double down. He's like, screw all of you. Like, and I'm paraphrasing because he said that we're not going to change nothing. If anything, I wish we had done more. Just tells you like, but then Survivor 42 is the perfect example of them listening to feedback and not acknowledging it, because while the show was filmed, I imagine exactly like 41 was, produced exactly the same. Magically, 42 minimizes the political talk and everything else associated with that. Like nobody's business. All of a sudden, the winner, starting with this season, will no longer ever get 0 confessionals in an episode through the entire New Era. It starts here. They're like, we heard your feedback. They won't say it. We heard your feedback not knowing Erica was. We heard your feedback on political stuff. And like, I know we have the one tribal, Rebekah, where I believe Tori gets voted off, but it was like really like, we're not letting another black person join the jury. Like that was the entire tribal. Like they couldn't not show that. But other than that, like it magically doesn't get addressed afterwards. Like it's not a thing on the show, though I'm sure it was talked about by the players. That's what I mean. Like there would have been on 41, there would have been follow up on that if that had happened to 41, but there was none on 42. And that was like the biggest indication. That was the week I'm like, they definitely did a hard re-edit and they won't say a word about it. So anyways, that's just a theory, but I've watched the Survivor and listened to enough interviews to know, like, it's just crazy to me. It's the opposite. It really is the opposite of what they normally do. So this season was an improvement. I think that it was produced exactly the same as 41. It had all the same twists and everything. The show seemed to cut down on the time the journeys took during episodes, while there was like the same number. It shortened because it was, the thing was like in later seasons, the journeys will all be different each time they do a journey. This season and last season was like the same journey, and it's like the stupid ship wheel. Like, okay, but it's like every single time. It's not interesting the second time. Like they've already done it and everybody knows about it. It wasn't like a secret, Like, I don't know. So what are your thoughts on 42?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you. I think that this season is a big improvement from the previous season. I think there were also some things that just kind of naturally helped, like just spending less time explaining everything to us. Like they didn't have to spend as much time explaining all these new advantages. So that automatically just gave them more time to like show us the players, you know,
but he
playing
still
the game.
did. He would be like, I know we did this on 41, but the players don't know about it. So here's me re-explaining it to you. And it's like, Jeff, if we already know, then you don't have to explain it to us, bud.
Yeah. I guess maybe I could be misremembering, but I feel like they shortened it a little bit.
Probably did. Yeah.
But, you know, between that and Journeys being shorter and all that, yeah, I feel like we had more time with the players, but also at the same time, like, I don't know. Yeah, just there wasn't like, just thinking back through like all the players this season, not a ton of like super memorable people. I think obviously, and I know we just watched season 50, but the most memorable player besides Marianne would be Jonathan. And, you know, he's okay in this season in 42. I mean, it's very fun to watch him like literally carry his tribe through a challenge when Jeff had to stop the challenge because everyone else was like not able to complete it as a complete tribe. And Jonathan is just doing the challenge like by himself, basically.
It's a very memorable moment that didn't happen in 50. I was hoping something similar, but no.
Oh, yes. But yeah, so I think Jonathan as a character, like he's very memorable from this season. But overall, just, yeah, not a lot that I remember. And I'm like, oh yeah, I want to go back and rewatch this season because of that. So yeah, it's by far an improvement, but is it enough of an improvement for me to want to watch it again? Not necessarily.
For me, it was purely an improvement because of the editing. Like production wise, what they did on the island was almost 1 for 1. There's still the Hourglass. Though I will say the Hourglass with Roxroy was better only because Roxroy's on exile or wherever he's at. And he's like, oh, finally, time away from my nagging wife. Bro, you've been in Fiji for like 12 days. He's like, finally, time where I'm by myself. I can show my kids who's boss and my nagging wife's not around. I was like, Roxroy. And then he just like, he doesn't have a social media presence. So it's like his only time on Survivor. And all I remember is that his flipping kids need to be shown what's up. And that his wife nags him. And I'm like, just... The cat, it's just such rare casting.
Is he still married after saying that on TV?
He doesn't have anything, Rebekah. I can't even check on him, see if he's alive. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways, I agree with you, though. I think Jonathan got brought back for 50. The only other player I think should be a lock to come back in a future returnee season. By the way, 41, my answer to that is nobody. But for 42, Marianne. Agreed.
Yes, I agree. Yep, 100%.
Yeah. Marianne 1000% should be brought back.
Yeah, I like her a lot as a player, as a winner, like all of that. I think she makes for great TV, just incredibly like high energy. Just very funny, entertaining. I don't know how it was to like live on a beach with her for 26 days, but very entertaining TV. So I would love to see her come back in a season where there's multiple winners being brought back. So she actually like has a shot. Right. Not getting voted out first.
Like a tribe of winners or something. Or if they, I know we talked about this during our 51 podcast, but if they do a half and half season, half like winner, like half leftover winners, half winners and winners they haven't brought back, I mean, already. And half like their loved ones. So like winners, blood versus water, something like that. So anyways, Marianne, I really enjoyed her. I know she's not everyone's cup of tea. That's fine. But I think this is really why I think even if you don't like the winner necessarily, at least you can understand who the winner is because the change they started the season with making sure they never get ignored in an episode. They never get skunked is what we called it when they get 0 times talking to the camera, which Erica had happened to her multiple times, if I recall. Marianne never happened once. I felt like I definitely knew who Marianne was. And at first I was like, it's an anomaly. They're going to go back to skunking somebody. Nope. If they would have done it in 43. But they did not. So Marianne is, again, the show not acknowledging things, improving, but not acknowledge. It's like the craziest backwards thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. But just to be clear, I do like that they're improving things. I don't want to criticize them for making changes. Like, I do appreciate that they are making changes and doing things that, you know, that we've asked for, that we've said like, hey, we'll enjoy the show more if you do this. Like, yeah. And
I understand that, like, saying that they wouldn't be like, they wouldn't say it before 42. By the way, we're never going to skunk the winner. And they have never said that. Right. They're probably never going to say it because they've skunked second place multiple times. But it would be okay if they said, hey, we've heard your feedback and we're trying to make the edit. We're trying to make the story or whatever the edit more evened out, more fleshed out story that like tells everybody's story versus only focusing on like 5 people.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we'll talk about that more when we get to 50, I guess.
Sure, well,
because I have some thoughts on that.
Anyways, so 42, where do you have it ranked?
I have it at number 9.
I have it at number 9. Madison and Mary have it at number 9. It is number 9 overall. I would sooner watch it than 41, but I would sooner. This isn't saying much. I would, because like for me, my number 8 is close to 42. Like I almost swapped them, Rebekah. I thought about it before.
Really?
Before we podcast, I was like, maybe it's time to swap them. But no, just for right now, I'm not going to. 42 is an okay season. I feel like had it not been produced back to back to 41, it would have been a better season with the same cast. Better season. But because it was produced at the same time as 41, same ideas, it kind of has a lot of the same issues, do or die, and all that stuff still there. So, all right, let's move on to what I would consider a marked improvement. The show now has heard all of our feedback. Whether they admit it or not, has heard all of our feedback about 41 and 42, and whether they admit it or not, made changes during Survivor 43. So we move on to Survivor 43, aired 1 year after 41, of course. And Rebekah, 43, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, my thoughts are, I agree with you. I think this is a marked improvement from 41 and 42. Like I was saying earlier, kind of one of my big like factors in ranking these is like, do I want to rewatch this season? And I honestly think this is one of the seasons that I most would want to rewatch.
Agreed.
I've not watched it since it aired, but just because I think of the way that they told the story for Gabler, I got alligablered. I'll say it. Like I did not see him being the winner of this season, even though like he was very present the whole time. Like they didn't under edit him, but they did like do the edit in a way that matched the way that he played the game, which was to be sort of under the radar.
And we didn't know about the match chat. We'll talk about that in 44. It's a more 44 relevant conversation.
We also were too distracted by the fact that Sammy is only 19. That was a whole thing. I know. I think he's still 19, actually. So yeah, this was, I think, just a very fun season compared to the first two. I like Gabler as a winner, but I think it is one that, again, I would want to go back and rewatch because I remember being so shocked when he won. But
like in a fun way. Not like Erica,
in a fun way, not in a bad way.
We're like, oh, I guess Erica won. Huh, that's weird. With Gabler, It was like, oh, this is so much fun.
I can't believe Gabler just won. That's awesome. Like, that was more my reaction.
That son of a gun. How did he do it?
Yes. So yeah, I think this season has definitely aged much better in my memory. And yeah, in terms of like people who I'd want to see come back from this season, there's not a ton, to be honest. I maybe would want Carla to come back, but only if she would come back as a villain. Because I feel like they kind of hyped her up. What they were originally
going to do with her before they decided to change that? Yeah.
Yes, they like hyped her up, I think, in the preview as like being a villain. And then like she really wasn't. And this is kind of a thing in the new era too. Like I understand that we don't really love villains or like letting people really be villains anymore.
It's true.
But I don't know. I love a good villain. Like, I mean, what's one of the most beloved seasons of this show is heroes versus villains.
No, it was heroes versus healers versus hustlers, all positive attributes.
Yeah.
That was everyone's favorite season.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I think this season has aged really well in my memory. I would watch it again. I don't know if I would show this to someone as like a way to introduce them to the show, just because like Gabler's kind of a low-key winner.
Yeah.
And I think there's like maybe more exciting seasons to show them. But yeah, that's not to say, like, I don't think this season was boring at all. So yeah, I enjoyed the season a lot. It's definitely a big improvement for me from the first two.
But it is
what are your thoughts?
It's a good season to teach what Survivor's all about, because watching Cassidy do what we don't see it often enough. Seeing somebody who loses the game because they straight up ignore the jury. Like the jury tells them on their way out the door, Jesse's like, hey, if you want to earn my vote, you have to beat me in fire. And Cassie goes, no. And people argue like Cassie shouldn't have to do that. It's not about what she should have to do. She's literally being told, you will get respect from me and get my vote if you defeat me in fire. And Cassie's like, I'm not going to do that. Well, guess what? She doesn't get Jesse's vote. By the way, Jesse, got to mention Jesse, literally tricks two people into literally Janine gives Dwight her idol because of, again, this is where knowledge is power came up. Because knowledge power was a threat to happen, she gave it to Dwight. Dwight then gives it to Jesse. Jesse then orchestrates Dwight's blind side. And now Jesse has has Janine's idol, and Janine doesn't know Jesse has her idol. Nobody knows the idol in the game. They all think Dwight went out with it.
Yeah,
10
that's
out of 10.
So right. Yep.
Social gameplay. The knowledge is power, the threat of it. I think the knowledge is power should be brought back because it failed every single time. It never worked once. In fact, no, wait, even on 49, it did come back. I'm saying it's actually a good twist. At first I was critical of it, but like seeing it flop time after time after time, I'm like, I think they need to have this more often because flipping Eva got in 48 and then did nothing with it, or like she had everything already, so it didn't matter. I think didn't Sophie have it on 49? And then she asked.
Yes.
But it didn't,
yeah. She just
they tricked her. I forget.
Well, yes. So that I guess we can talk about it more when we get there.
We
but
will. I forget that's what happened.
Yeah. She like tries to play it, but Steven had already played his advantage because the way he played it was by talking to a producer. It was very weird how that all shook out, but it did make for good TV. So yeah.
At the end of the day, it's kind of what I care about. Jesse, though, okay, so he does that. He also, before he ever gets that idol, Rebekah, Cody handed Jesse his idol to hold on to because he was worried about the knowledge power stealing it. So Jesse is sitting with 2 idols in his pocket, and nobody knows that Cody gave him his idol and that he has Janine's idol. And Jesse goes to Final Four, burns Cody along the way, by the way, playing his own idol against Cody at Cody's Tribal.
Brutal.
Like, how has this man not been brought back? Marianne should be brought back. Jesse should be brought back. He wasn't like the most dynamic personality, but oh my gosh, he had surreal levels of people trusting him. And it's been long enough. I don't think he's going to be viewed as some massive threat. Like people will be like, oh, Jesse was, but it was so long ago. It was so long ago.
That's the thing. Yeah, because even like, as we're talking this through, I'm like, I remember that happening, but it's not like super fresh in my memory. Like just looking at the people on the cast, I don't remember Jesse as being like a huge threat. But yeah, those were great moves. Like, again, this is what makes Survivor great is like when the players have space to make moves and to like manipulate things and just, I don't know, just to play more. So yeah, that's great. That's exactly what I love about Survivor. And that's another reason this season is such an improvement for me.
Where do you have 43 ranked?
So I have it ranked at number 5 overall.
I have it ranked, this can be controversial. I think I'm not even the highest on it though. I have it number 2.
Wow. Okay.
I really enjoy, people will know whenever I throw out my personal rankings from time to time of seasons, like I'll give out like top 5 seasons. One of them will be Samoa, and people are like, oh, big Russell Hantz fan. Actually, I really enjoy a season, and it's just my natural personality that teaches us all a thing. Russell losing was taught on the season. It gets overlooked. I think 43 did a lot better job of teaching you what Survivor's all about, which is making friends. Friends, when Tyson said that, I think on Heroes vs. Villains, where he's like, friends are more powerful than advantages or idols or whatever. It's like, it's true because idols aren't voting for you to get $1 million. People are. People have to vote for you.
Right.
And seeing Cassie literally ignore the jury while Gabler befriends everybody, and Gabler made sure the one person who could have been the mayor of Ponderosa and poison the jury go out and Ellie, like that, he timed that move correctly. He's like, I'm going all in on this because I don't want to make it the jury. So he gets out Ellie. He's like, I told everyone I want to vote off Ellie because I want to vote off Ellie. And it was like such a perfectly said confessional. And it sticks in my mind because like that was a huge move because Gabler was a mess in the pre-merge. And I know we're going to do winter rankings with Mary on a different day, but I'm just like throwing out there. Like, I feel like a lot of lessons were in this season to teach you like what Survivor's really about. And I really enjoy a season where that happens and it comes to fruition. It wasn't like Cassie ignored people going out the door and then won. Like, okay, like why did you?
Yeah.
It's just dumb.
Yeah.
But in this case, it was like, no, she was told straight to her face, I'm not voting for you unless blah, blah, blah. Carla straight up said to her face, Cassidy, you didn't make a lot of moves. You didn't do nothing. You know, like straight to her face before we ever got to Final Tribal. And it's like, I love when that stuff happens. It used to happen more often.
Absolutely.
They don't.
Yeah.
They do it sometimes. Other times they don't do it. And I think it was really to explain to us why Cassie was going to lose. Because once Jesse goes out and fire, it's like, I guess Cassie's about to win. But in retrospect, it was all there why she wasn't going to.
Yeah.
But it kind of felt
I almost would like to see Cassidy play again, but only if she's going to double down And like anytime anyone tells her to do anything, well, Jeff, or like I'm trying to think of a player who's a good example, but I'm just saying, like, she comes in and like
Russell
people tell
Hands.
her like, hey, we're gonna make this move, and she's like, no. Just like shuts them down.
Cassie,
no, actually,
like, if you want to win, screw that. I'm not doing that.
Yeah. She would definitely, if she were to play that way, she would be there for a good time, not a long time. But that, I don't know. Yeah, that would just be funny to just see her like double down and be like, no, I'm going to play exactly how I want to play. No one else can, I'm not going to listen to anyone else for anything, even votes.
She's like but like secretly she does actually like listen, does actually like receive feedback like Survivor.
They're like, Cassidy, you keep saying you're not going to vote with us, and then you just vote with us.
Vote with us every time.
What is that? That's so confusing.
Screw you guys. I'm not listening to you. Proceeds to do what she's told. Oh, no. We actually have people like that. We'll get to them. I mean, I'm sure they were in this season too, but they're more notorious in the later season. So anyways, yes. Overall. So, all right. So my ranking was 2. For you, it was number 5. Mary had it ranked number 1, which I think she said ever since we started doing these ranking podcasts at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Madison has it ranked at number 7. She's the lowest on it. Again, no context.
Respectable.
Overall, it gets the number 3 slot.
Okay. Well,
Mary and I really dragged it up. Let me put it that way.
I was going to say, yeah.
Mary and I both were there though when we I laughed I literally fell out of the chair laughing when Gabler won. And I honestly, top moment on Survivor for me, along with Jeff spoiling who wins fired 50. Like just top moment.
Yeah. So. There's few moments in Survivor where I've like yelled at the TV, either in a good way or a bad way. But this is like one that, because I just remember, watching it live and like just yelling, there's no way Gabler's winning right now. This is crazy. Like, it's just such a memorable moment as well for me. So, what a season.
All right. Well, let's move on to our next season, which at the time when it came out, Rebekah, when 44 came out, people were in love with it. They loved this season. And I feel like over time, people have come to the realization that I've had since it aired. Mid at best. I think 44 is mid at best. It is a worse 43. It's on par with 42. I almost moved it below 42, frankly. And the season really is single-handedly carried by the Tika 3. If you don't like the Tika 3, you don't like the season, because the season's all about them. In fact, I believe the photos they put out to promote 45 was like the Tika 3 on Jeff's chest. And he hasn't done that with any other players or any other season. But to promote 45, the Tika 3 were like marching with their torches on Jeff's chest. I'm dead serious. You can go back on like Facebook or Instagram or whatever and find those images where they promoted 45 with that image, like the Tika 3. So I think in retrospect, a lot of people have been soured. Number 1, this season, not much happens. Not really, like there's... And then everybody realized the Matt chat this season. So what is the Matt chat? Great question. Person who doesn't know. The Matt chat, we finally realized, I think people realized it once Gabler won, but from 33 through 44, whenever there's a newbie season, and Jeff did a Matt chat where he talks to people while they're staying there, he's like, hey, you, what's your name? Because that doesn't happen every season. But every time it did on a newbie season, while the show's been in Fiji, it revealed that one of those people Jeff has said, hey, what's your name to, was the winner. Now, the show, Rebekah, never acknowledged that they did this. Never acknowledged that they were going to change it. Nothing. Which, by the way, this is one of the changes, like, I get why you wouldn't even acknowledge it and why you wouldn't acknowledge it, changed it, because it then, in retrospect, spoils a bunch of seasons for people. But yeah, so this season was the one that kind of like broke us. And like, I think all season we were like, well, it has to be Jam Jam. Who were the other ones? It was Jam Jam.
I think
Franny and
then Matt.
I didn't know it was MGM. It was MGM.
Yes.
Matthew Grinstead Male. Like there's 2 Matts this season, so I called him MGM.
Matthew, not Matt. Yeah,
Matthew, not Matt. Right. And so Matthew went out with like a shoulder injury, which by the way was an epic injury moment. That Jeff's like, it's not a quit. It's not a quit. He came out and said it's not a quit, but he didn't get medically evacuated. But it's not a quit. You on the wiki? Quit day 11.
Yeah.
It's a quit. It's a quit.
Well,
but Jeff's like,
which has more authority, Jeff or the wiki? That's the question.
If MGM gets asked back, I would say Jeff. But if he never comes back, the wiki.
Yeah.
Because quitters don't get brought back. Like, technically, what's his name on One World wasn't a quit. But then Jeff on Blood vs. Water is like, you quit last time and now you're quitting this time. Can't remember the kid's name. Even though he's been in a bunch of videos. Colton, thank you. He's a bunch of videos of mine. Yeah, Colton. So anyways, I'll let you talk, Rebekah, but I think what's important to mention about what soured people, I think, is that after the season, whether this is true or not, Carson has been accused of plagiarizing someone's puzzles that they made and like sold his own versions. By the way, everyone's just taking Survivor's puzzles. I'm not okay. Again, I don't have all the details, but like these are all puzzles from Survivor people are just making and selling. Carolyn went on the Traders, and I think she was great, but some people don't like her there. And then Jam went on the Traders and then was like really salty, I guess, about how it went. So, and of course, Jeff infamously said, if you go on the Traders and you're not Sari, you're not coming back. So,
or Stephanie, apparently, because she was also on 50.
Yeah, she's an exception. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and Boston Rob. There's a few exceptions.
It's just not Carolyn. So anyways, and of course, people are split on Carolyn after 44 regardless. So Rebekah, what are your thoughts on 44?
Yeah, so I think 44 for me is sort of the inverse of 43. And what I mean by that is I think I really enjoyed watching this season as it aired, but I don't know that I would want to go back and rewatch it. Like, I do think it's kind of lost some of the rewatch value, just because, I think watching it was very memorable and entertaining. Like, we had the whole Matt and Franny romance, which was very sweet. I did like the Tika 3, specifically Carolyn. I am a big fan of Carolyn. I think she's very entertaining. I know, like you said, she is kind of divisive. Some people like her, some people don't. But yeah, and like, I don't know, we had some good running bits, like Claire not participating in a challenge came from this season. So there were a few things that were just really fun about watching this season live. But do I want to go back and rewatch a season where it's just 3 people who kind of run the show the whole time? Not necessarily. So yeah, I think for me, it's kind of the inverse of 43, where I enjoyed watching it a lot the first time, but I don't know that I would necessarily want to go back and rewatch it, just for all the reasons that we've kind of been talking about.
Like, what moments are there to rewatch? Like, 43,
exactly.
I named a bunch of moments, but that's off the top of my head. There's so many more. There's so many more moments of 43. Whereas 44, it's like, what are the moments that,
Yeah.
Like, was
this the season where there was like an idol in the birdcage or something? And
and that ended up being a big flop. But even then, it's like,
I vaguely remember that. Yeah, I think that was a good idea, but like just the execution or something just wasn't as exciting.
That could be brought back for the open era since everything's back on the table. I think that one has untapped potential.
Well, it's an idol out in the open, so it works with the theme.
Right. Oh,
an open idol.
Does. Yes. Yeah. That one, that's what I see them bringing back, because this season it was untapped potential. It was a cool idea. I remember being hyped about the idea going in the season. But as always, this is like Phil Kogan said about The Amazing Race. Like, the top moments of my show, as he was talking about The Amazing Race, is not the twists and turns we've done, but the situations players have gotten into. And it's like the idol being out in the forest is not a top moment unless there's a good situation that comes of it. Unless the players can make a good situation. It's all about the situations of the players. So yeah, it's like the idea is not enough by itself. Like, you need the right cast and for it to execute correctly. And I think that was a missed potential. I think they didn't execute it correctly, and it just kind of just end up being whatever.
Yeah. And I also think it's fine for the show to try things like this, where it might not be the most exciting the first time we saw it, but if they were to try it again with a different cast, with a different context, maybe they could tweak it a little bit. Like, I think it has potential. So I'm fine with them trying things, and maybe this is like a building blocks for something that ultimately later in a future season will be more exciting. I'm fine with that personally.
And this is a worse version of what they did in China when they had those big idol plaques at each camp that James ended up, I think he got both of them. And he went home with both of them in his pocket. But like, those were like massive idols. Like, there's no faking that idol. And then on season 25 Philippines, they did the same thing, but they made them smaller and they were the top of the rice basket. So once it went missing, everybody noticed.
Right.
Everybody knows. So they've done this before, and this was like the coolest idea version of it, but it ended up being like the least meaningful to the season, if that makes sense. So yeah. 44 is just like, it's number 8, and I'm gonna be frank with you, if we ever rank all the new era seasons again, we'll figure that out once the open era starts, how we're gonna do this. But it definitely could move down and be below 42. I don't know, man. 44 is just like, what value is there for me to rewatch from the season? Yeah.
Well, I'm not quite as low on it as you are. I do have it at number 6.
Okay.
But that being said, like, frankly, my bottom like 5 seasons are all ones that I feel like I don't really want to rewatch. So it definitely falls into that category of like, yeah, I don't know. They're kind of all very similar in my mind.
Mary has this season ranked number 7.
Okay.
And Madison is not here, but she ranked it number 2. Holy crap. What? She must really like Carolyn. I think she really likes Carolyn.
I think she really likes Carolyn. Not to put words in her mouth, but yeah, if I had to guess, I'll be curious. That's very interesting.
Madison dragged up the overall ranking, I think, to number 44. So overall, this is number 44. That's not where I have it.
Season 44 is at number what?
Is number 6. What did I say?
You said it's number 44. I was like, are we ranking every season? I am not prepared for that.
It did so bad it got buried. No, it's number 6 overall in our new era ranking.
Yeah, so. Okay.
All right, with that, let's move into 45. And this, I think, is an important season to talk about because it felt like a shot in the arm was finally given to Survivor. I want to throw out there that the shot in the dark had never worked and saved somebody in the first 4 seasons. We were literally asking questions like, is it even possible for the shot in the dark to work, in a way that matters? Like all this, and really this is the only, I think twice in the new era, it worked and it saved somebody. Because I know it worked on 44, but it was like somebody who had got no votes against them. So like, I don't remember who it was. So I started all that say because like Caleb literally sets the record this season, negating 12 votes with the shot in the dark. Goes out the very next episode, but that was his social
but man,
game.
what a glorious one episode he had.
Everyone was super hyped seeing him negate 12 votes. It was kind of an epic moment. But I think other things to mention, Rebekah, is that the writer's strike, I never thought I'd be happier to see a writer's strike in my entire life. I didn't even know it until Survivor said, hey, and The Amazing Race, which I got to say, also thankful for. Both of those shows went, hey, from now on, 90-minute episodes with commercials. So we're going from an hour to 90 minutes. So the show ends up being, without commercials, instead of 42 minutes, a normal episode, 65 minutes. And while some seasons were like, oh my gosh, I wish it was just 42 minutes an episode, this is not one of them. I think 45 came in prepared to be 90 minutes, and it shows because I think they did more challenges this season. Like they were prepared and they had fun.
They brought the auction back, which was huge.
Right. It wasn't the best auction, but the fact that it came back, it was like another one of those. And that was one where they're like, hey, we're bringing it back because they knew fans wanted it. But for a while, Jeff's like, I don't know how to bring it back and do something different with it because I didn't like how it had been broken in the past. So 45, man, lots of things to mention that are positive. They brought Bruce back, who almost, like, no joke, I think he almost like killed himself in 44. Like, had they not had a medical team there, he would have bled out right there on the beach. Came back 45. Thank goodness this is the season too. Had he been at 44, we would have not gotten the storyline of Katurah hates Bruce. Every episode, she's like, she did not like him. She was crashing out every episode. And Bruce wins immunity, cut to Katurah rolling her eyes, like it was beautiful. Hannah quits day 3, because she doesn't have nicotine. Brandon can't walk on rocks without falling over and crying. He goes out second. And Sabaya like burns the idol in the fire at Tribal, which clearly Jeff in the show, Jeff did not. That was not what they thought. They thought you have to make a fire back at camp. Sabaya played 4D chess, brought the idol that was in wax to, this is the only season to do this, by the way, idol in wax, and brought it to the fire at Tribal. And it's like, that's some 4D chess. They didn't say you couldn't do that.
Yeah, that's something that it's unfortunate that they haven't brought it back, because that is so, like, that's so funny. Like that, I remember that moment as being, again, just such good TV. Because
Jeff was not having it though. He did not look happy about this.
Yeah, I know that they didn't like the way it played out, but it was so memorable as a viewer. Because like, I get that their idea was like, you have to win a challenge and get Flint, therefore being able to get to your idol. But like, yeah, I mean, the trade-off, the thing that she paid for that is that now everyone knows she has an idol. It's very public. So it's, there's pros and cons to that for sure. But like, I don't know. Yeah, I remember that moment as being very memorable and just like so much fun. Cinema, as the Riz God would say.
This season, I think, had a very strong first 2/3 of the season. It really falls off a cliff after Bruce gets voted off. Some may argue when Emily gets voted off the very next episode. Whether it's Bruce or Emily, I think we can all agree that once it's the Reba 4 plus Jake and Katurah, the season's kind of like, Okay. But up until Bruce finally gets knocked out, or Emily, if that's your cup of tea. Because Emily has that whole, like, she's a supervillain in the first episode. And then, like, Caleb's like, what if you're, like, not a supervillain? Emily's like, okay, I won't be a supervillain. I'll be nice. And, like, you get a growth. And then at 50, she's like, sorry that they did that to me.
To be clear, her version of being a supervillain was to be confused that people thought aliens built the pyramids. I mean, it was just like... It was just the silliest
Hannah
conversation.
was literally sweeping dirt at camp, and she's like, what are you doing?
Oh, yeah.
She was on the Lulu tribe, which was a mess.
Oh, man. I love Emily so much as a player. She's definitely one. I know we just saw her on 50, but I would absolutely love to see her play again. She brings such a mess and chaos to the game that is just beautiful. And yeah, I love that Caleb had to sit her down and be like, hey, you need to, like, be nice, make friends on this show. It's a show about friends.
Cutting each other.
Yes, so funny.
Yeah.
I believe this is also the season where when Jeff was like offering them the bag of rice if people sat out of the challenge, he like stabbed the bag of rice.
This is the only one that was amazing.
That was the peak right there. Like that was incredible. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I do think the season slows down a bit towards the end, but just like, I don't know. Honestly, like it's not even that many episodes. It's like what, 3-4 episodes?
It's the last couple. It's the last like 2 or 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally,
so there's so many highs in the episodes before that I feel like it outweighs the lows for me.
Bruce goes in episode 10. And so I think that's when the season takes a dip. Some may argue when Emily goes in episode 11. So it's the last 2 to 3 episodes, depending on how you look at it.
10 or 11 good episodes for 2 or 3 slow ones. I think that's worth it, in my opinion.
I think 45 is a really strong season up until the end. And I know a lot of people's opinions will be formed by how a season ends, which is very fair. You know, what's the conclusion to the season is just as should be just as important as the rest of it. I think that, playing with the boys. Like they were having fun this season. It was a season with fun. And they took advantage of the longer runtime, and it didn't feel like the show was stretched out. It felt like the show finally was given room to breathe. And I think that's really what we were asking for, because Winners at War didn't get that, and they stuffed so much into it. And that was kind of our complaint with 41, and it kind of it bled into 42, 43, and 44, is that there's just so much crap stuffed into it, and there wasn't enough time for any of it to breathe. 45 is like, finally, all this nonsense you stuffed in, it has room to breathe in a good way, so you got to know more people.
Yes, absolutely. That's exactly it. Like, I think the benefit is that we got to know the players better, because there was, you know, not as much percentage of the airtime was taken up with like, you know, exposition or like journeys or whatever. It was like, yeah, we had that extra time to just get to know people. And that makes me so much more invested in the game. Like if a player that I like is at risk of going home, I'm way more invested than if it's just 2 people that I feel indifferent about. Oh
no, this person has finally started talking to the camera. Must be their episode to go. That's really what it felt like in those other seasons. So,
yep.
Yeah. Where do you have 45 ranked?
So I have it at number 4. It is pretty high for me.
Well, I have it at number 4 as well. We agree. Mary has it at number 9.
Oh.
I don't know.
Wow, that's surprising.
Why? Right. What?
I have so many follow-up questions.
So earlier I said that season 42 was ranked number 9 by everybody. I was wrong. It was ranked number 8 by Mary.
Yeah, I was going to say.
My apologies.
Okay.
Number 8 by Mary. It doesn't affect the overall ranking. It was a pretty big divide from 8 to 9 on the overall rankings. But Mary ranked season 42 number 8 and season 45 number 9. Which is just wild.
I think I remember Mary last time we talked about this. I don't want to put words in her mouth, but I think she did talk about like not loving Dee as a winner. So I wonder if it's surprising that affected that so much. But yeah,
the ending's a bigger factor for Mary. It shows in that case.
Fair enough. Absolutely. Right. Yeah, I get it.
For me, it's a factor, but it's not the biggest factor. And for some people, it really is. I think it's why, and that's why I think 43 is number 1 for her. She really liked that. Gabler won. Oh, and then Gabler gave away his $1 million to veterans organizations because he doesn't need the money. I know some people are offended by that, but like, I would prefer you do that rather than do what Fabio did, which I believe is blow it on. I'm not even gonna make the joke. To keep this podcast PG.
Or just hoarding wealth. Like, you want someone who doesn't need the money to just keep it. I mean, you know, maybe the argument is like he shouldn't have won, but like, I don't know. He was good at
threw it
Survivor.
For Cassidy, I mean, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And Maria wouldn't
He
have
should have
voted for
donated the
him.
money to Cassidy.
She wanted people to be selfish. We're getting this, by the way. Let's get to it. All right. So 45, we ranked it. What's the overall ranking of 45? Great question. Madison had it at number 3. So its overall ranking is number 5. Right in the middle. And I think it's a very fair overall ranking for the season. For the new era. So let's move on to my personal favorite season. Number 1, season 46, Survivor 46. This was really like the season that made me go, oh my gosh, 90 minutes was the answer to all of our problems. Spoiler, it was not. As always, it's the cast, but 90 minutes sure helps when you have a good cast. And 46 was a good cast. 46.
I just want to say real quick, I think 90 minutes helps a lot if you have a great cast. It makes things 10 times worse if you have a bad cast.
It really puts more on the cast than the nonsensical twists and stuff. It really
And this
does.
season, I think, had a really solid cast. So, yes. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to throw that out there.
The first episode, David Jelinski. What an iconic first boot. Because he's like, whoa, I'm not going to quit. I made a friend with Q. Proceeds to throw the hourglass across the beach, quit the challenge. He's like, I thought we had several. Turns out we only had 4. What? Several means 7. It's in the word. Okay. As he told Jeff, several means 7. It's in the word, Jeff. Proceeds to go on the journey. Quits that too. Just is quitting everywhere. So Dave Jelinski, iconic first boot. The second episode is really the weakest of the whole season, where it's a 2-hour episode. For some reason,
a lot of Banu.
There was no reason for the second episode to be 2 hours. It didn't make any sense. I didn't get where they're coming at with this one, but it ends up being the Banu. It's too much Banu, but also Kenzie and Tiffany like bullying Jess. And, and they tried to make Jess look like a bad guy, but Jess was just like sick and like, they're like, Jess, what a moron for not finding our fake idol so we can blindside her at Tribal. What an idiot. And they're like, she's a clown. Well, that would imply she's gone to clown school. And it's like, what did Jess do to you
and then
guys?
It just cuts to Jess doing nothing. Yeah,
right.
like Jess didn't do anything to like deserve this level of hate.
And then, of course, Banu, iconic fallout. Like he's like on his knees begging, Tiffany, please save me. And she's like, get up off your knees, Banu. And then Jeff on his podcast, because the Survivor on Fire podcast started during 44. I forgot to mention this. During 41, they tried to gaslight us. They're like, this is the first season ever to have no rice. Not true. They had done that in season 4. And they did it again on season 8 at minimum. So anyways, the new era kind of forgot its own history in a bad way. This season, I believe, is like, and then on the On Fire podcast, it started during Survivor 44, which I know is not part of the edited show, but is an insight into what the show is thinking or what people in charge are thinking. Whereas on Survivor 44's podcast, they were like, wow, 26 days, not as easy as it looks, right? Okay. And then like Aubrey, by the way, after 50 came out and said like, no, 26 days is much easier than 39.
Oh, yeah. No, of course it is.
Because that's the truth. And she already won 2 million. Like, what else does she have to lose, right? What does she have to gain by sucking up to the show? Anyways, this season, Jeff on his podcast, like, if you don't like Banu, what does that say about you? Maybe you have a problem. And it's like, what? Because like the future winner of the season dunks on Banu, Rebekah, in the Banu boot episode. And it's like, there's the editors and Jeff are like at war with each other, I guess, in that moment. It's like Jeff's like waxing poetic about how amazing Banu is. Doesn't bring him back for 50. Waxing poetic about how amazing Banu is. And it's how we have the problem as the viewer. And then the show's like dunking on him in his episode. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I'm confused.
Yeah. I mean, it is potentially something that they were doing in the edit to, support Kenzie because like they want the edit to support the winner. And so whatever the winner is thinking, not always is the right thing, but like, I think in this instance, they wanted us to think like, oh, Kenzie is correct in this situation to just, sort of support her as a character.
To be clear, she was. Yes. She was correct.
Right. Yes, but the edit, can sometimes manipulate those things. And I don't mean manipulate like they're showing us things that didn't happen, but like my point is like by them showing Kenzie dunking on Banu, it's like just supporting this is her opinion and he's getting ready to be eliminated. So it must be a correct opinion,
Right. Well, I'm not going through every boot. But it was worth mentioning also at 45, they introduced, of course, nobody really picked up on this till, and by nobody, I mean, generally it was not picked up upon by the fan base till near the end of the season, that the highest name in the credits, because they brought back the theme song as well for 45, another thing we really wanted them to do, and they finally did. They brought it back 45, is here in 46. So 45, they had Dee's name like the highest above everybody, and we're like, oh, that was a hint the whole time that Dee was going to win. So then this season they put Hunter's name like halfway up, and like really like gave us a glimpse, and it was so strange. And really 47 was the breaking point on the name height being a thing that means anything. So
I remember people like measuring.
That was me.
To try and figure out. Yeah. And I was seeing other people do it online too, of just like, okay, this name is 3 pixels higher. It's like, okay, I don't think that means anything.
But for Hunters,
I remember you were checking it and like, I don't think, yeah. You were like, I don't think this is anything.
Yeah, well, it wasn't anything for past 47. 47 was the breaking point. So anyways, point is that 48, great cast. 46 is a great cast.
Yeah.
Really solid cast. Q is just a quote machine. Fantastic TV. It just 10 out of 10. The fact that he made it as far as he did was just chaos incarnate.
Yeah.
The fact that
he tried to quit like what, 4 times?
3 times. He tried to quit 3 times, everybody.
And they wouldn't let him quit.
So if he tries to quit the Bonu episode and Tiffany's like, I'm not voting you off. Shut up, Q. Q then tries to quit again later. And then also it was theorized that he tried quitting during the original task, that Jelinski actually did quit. Like Q said it too, but they just left it out of the show. But like that would have been a 4th quit. But really, Incredible. It was like episode 8. He's like, sorry,
and then he
guys.
Came back for 50.
Right. Oh, yeah, because it's always, to be fair, this is the only person who tried to quit that I'm like, yeah, bring him back. So yeah, during episode 8, the hide and seek episode, it like things weren't going to go his way at Tribal. So he's like, all right, guys, you should vote me off. I'm quitting. And people are like, no. And then they proceed to keep him in the game for 4 more episodes because he tried to quit. And therefore they're like, he's a goat to drag to the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the hide and seek episode is another great example of like this having more, like the 90 minutes, having more time is made stronger based on the cast. Because if the cast was just sitting around at camp doing nothing, talking about nothing, that's boring. Like that wouldn't make for good TV. But because you had Q out here causing QOS and making everybody play hide and seek and saying it's a big mistake if they tried too hard or not hard enough. Like, that's such good TV.
No winning.
That's TV gold.
There was no winning hide and seek. There was no winning.
Even if you won hide and seek, you lost. Losing.
Yes, even if you won, you lost.
Isn't that like Hunter was? I think his name was Hunter.
He was
like
in the tree
up in
above
a tree
everybody
somewhere. He's like, "How do you get up there? That's a big mistake."
He was like,
He's
"If
trying
I
too hard.
can't find you in that tree, I can't find you in this game."
And then Liz like hid behind. I don't even know if it was a full bush. She was just like hiding behind like a tree stalk or something.
Liz,
and he was like, "Not trying hard enough. Big mistake."
Liz made a mistake. So we got to mention that Q doesn't take her on reward. Iconic moment where she goes, I'm pissed, and then doesn't get to go to Applebee's. The people who do go to Applebee's then do not eat the thing that Liz had, like, she was sticking her tongue out for and like was ready to like crawl on her hands and knees like a dog. Like she was going nuts for that bourbon burger that she goes to Applebee's to get with her daughter every Wednesday. And then they don't pick her. And then she's back at camp and they come back to like, oh, sorry, Liz. Like we were so full. We couldn't eat the bourbon burger. She's like, we were so full. We couldn't even eat the bourbon burger.
Yeah, why would you tell her that? Just lie. Say you ate it. Say it was delicious.
It looked it looked delicious. They did a great. Nope, I didn't eat it. Oh, the bourbon burger. So
devastating.
Yeah, we haven't even got to the big discussion, which we've only talked about. I try to limit it during 50 because like we have so many things I already talked about, but this is the only appropriate place, Rebekah. Kenzie versus Charlie. This is a season where they did a really fantastic job of editing them close, where it really felt like it could be anybody's game. And the crazy thing was from 41 through 44, the winner vote was 7-1-0. So it was never close. But then 45, it was 5-3, but it never felt like Austin had a chance versus D. Where they dropped the Matt chat, by the way, and threw it in our face and like made a joke out of it basically with how they did it, which I was glad, by the way, that they did that. So 46, Kenzie versus Charlie. And it all came down to Maria. For a quick recap, for those who don't remember, Maria was like Charlie and her compared each other to Malcolm and Denise, who, by the way, voted for each other when the other one went to final 3 and the other one didn't, when they cut each other. So Maria's like, I'm going to plan on cutting Charlie so he doesn't make it to final 3. Charlie, later in the episode's like, I think I need to cut Maria. I don't think she's going to take me to final 3. Charlie then proceeds to win the battle and cuts Maria first. Maria does not vote for Charlie and is the difference of why he doesn't get the win, because Ben said if I had to make the tiebreaker decision, I would have picked Charlie over Kenzie, despite the fact that the show led us to believe that he was closer to Kenzie, with how they kept showing like scenes of her being nice to Ben when he was having, I believe, anxiety attacks. I could be incorrect on what it was exactly.
Yeah, PTSD, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it was something. He's having some sort of struggle at night, and Kenzie would help him. I don't know if it was PTSD, but point is that, okay, so like, did Maria have to vote for Charlie? No. Was she allowed to be bitter? Of course. However, then it was iconic that after the season, she's like reading a prepared statement saying, the story is not about why I didn't vote for Kenzie. It's a story about blah, blah, blah. And like, she was like, the glint in Kenzie's eye as she made fire. Yeah. And like, what? And then like when Kenzie at Final Tribal said, I want to be selfish with the money, the opposite of Gabler. I want to be selfish with the money. That's what I came here to do. Everyone knows I was on Survivor 46 to be selfish. And like, she just wouldn't admit that she just didn't want Charlie to win because he backstabbed her, which, by the way, is fine, but she wouldn't admit
that's
it.
Valid. Yeah.
Right. She wouldn't be honest about why. And it's like, it's okay to not do what people expect you to do. Just be honest about it with us. But she wouldn't be honest, and she hasn't been. And I think it puts a sour taste in people's mouth about, and it's again, and then that comes up on 50 as a major plot line. So it's not like we conjured this plot line in our brains. It happened. And then on 50, it comes up. So yeah. What do you think, Rebekah?
I think, oh man, there's so much to say about this season. I think there's so many like players that I would love to see come back. Obviously, we got a couple of them on 50, but
Liz.
I think, yes, Liz, I would love to see her come back. But even if she doesn't come back as a player, like if I wanted her to be on 50, just come back and present a reward, which is Applebee's. Like, she doesn't even have to be playing the game. Like, just bring her back and say like, okay, Liz is presenting this reward. You get to hang out with Liz for the afternoon and eat Applebee's. Like, that's the reward. That would be so fun. So yeah, but I would also love to see her come back as a player if she wanted to do that. Even like Charlie, I don't know. We'll talk about him more when we get to 50, I'm sure. But like, yeah, there's maybe more there.
Now,
definitely
50, he's not a major character. The plot line of 50 comes up that he's like, he like needs to go therapy. It's all about Maria still. He needs to go therapy because he's like, oh my gosh, Rizgod didn't vote for his number one, what Charlie perceived as Rizgod's number one.
So triggered.
He's like, that happened to me, and now my entire life's about getting out the Rizgod. It's like, what? Yes. Well, you're still. Oh man, Charlie really did take this hard, and you can see it on his face when he loses that vote to Kenzie. And then Jeff at the reunion of that season says, who had already decided, or who changed their mind at Final Tribal, and Maria doesn't raise her hand. And it's like, yeah, because she had already decided because of the glint in Kenzie's eye during fire making that Kenzie won.
Yeah. And I think Charlie, a lot of his story in season 46 is about him being a Swiftie, which I know is maybe controversial, doesn't age super well. Whatever. I like the representation, but I do understand it can be a lot sometimes. But I think like on 50, his story was still sort of about season 46. So like, I don't know if he has more story to tell. I don't know if he has more to give to the show, but I'd be curious. Like, I would maybe be interested in seeing him play again just to see like, what his story would be. But the person I do definitely want to see play again is Tiffany. And again, I know she was just on 50. I know she went far in that game, but I still feel like she has more to give to Survivor, and I would love to see her come back. Just, you mentioned it earlier, but the scene in 46 where Banu's like on his hands and knees, like begging, and she's like, Banu, get up. Like, you're being embarrassing. Like, that's just such an iconic, like, Tiffany moment. So yeah, a lot of memorable moments and players from this season. And I do like Kenzie as the winner. Like, I think
Kenzie earned
season, she earned it. The season does such a good job of like you were saying, portraying both Kenzie and Charlie as like deserving of the win. So I feel like Kenzie deserved the win. I'm glad that she won. Also at the same time, like Charlie was robbed. And so it's just like the dichotomy of those two things happening at the same time is really cool. And the other thing I'll say about the season is like, this is probably the number one season from the new era that I would use to introduce people to the show.
I think it sets the bar so high this season.
I mean, it does in a way, but
slow.
not as high as like if you were to start with classic Survivor, like if you were to start with the old era, because I think that standard is just, it's so high. And also like this season, I think explains a lot of what the new era is going to be in terms of like journeys and, you know, twists and advantages, shot in the dark, all that sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, it does set the standard really high, but it's also just kind of like a low barrier for entry, if that makes sense. Like, I think I've told this story before, but the way I got my dad to watch Survivor is because he's like, he knew who Liz was through like her marketing email business or whatever. So I sent him the video of the Applebee's clip of her like freaking out over not going on the reward. And then he was like, what is the show? And I mean, now he's just like watching the show. So this was definitely like a gateway season to get him invested. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's a decent season. It does set the bar sort of high, but I think that there's other seasons that will rise to the standard that this season sets. But we haven't gotten to them yet, so talk about them more when we get there.
Well, I already said this season for me is number one of the entire new era. What about you?
It is number 3 for me.
For Mary, it's number 7. I'm not sure why, because I think this had a satisfying end. Madison, it is ranked number 1. Madison and I were fist bump. Yeah. If she was here, fist bump, because that is the correct call, Madison. Mary, I'll have to talk with her. But overall, it doesn't affect the overall ranking because it could have, I guess, if Mary had put it super high, but it ends up being our number 2 overall season. I think it's a very fair spot.
Yeah, I feel good about that.
Yeah. So yeah, 46, I could talk about it more and more. It's probably the season here I could probably talk about the most. Besides 50, because it's so fresh, 50 is. But yeah, 46 overall, number 2. Let's move on to Survivor 47. Who knew that 45, 46, 47, in my mind, they're kind of like an unofficial trilogy because they're like, it's a good set of seasons from 45 through 47. Again, the cast delivered the twists, while they were hit and miss here and there, the cast overall just made the seasons what they were. And I really appreciate this season that in my opinion, the only time in the new era, there's a through and through villain, and he's not everyone's cup of tea. And we've had him on the podcast, and every time he's not everybody's cup of tea. Rome is the only person in the entire new era who is a through and through villain, like played with the intention of being a villain in the way that people are like, why doesn't the show cast villains? Well, because when he's on, you guys all trash him. You guys all trash the villain.
Yeah.
Comes here to play, loses. It's not like he won the season. He doesn't even make the merge. He doesn't make the jury, whatever. Actually, he doesn't even earn the merge. Yeah. He technically makes it to where everybody's the same beach, but yeah, gets voted off in 12th. You know, Rome didn't fall into day, but you sure did. I forgot all the iconic quotes where he's getting voted off. And he's like voting for Saul so confidently. Rome like catches a fish. Asia wants to eat it. He's like, what? She didn't help. She didn't do nothing. She didn't cook it. Eats it right in her ear. And she's like, Rome, you're eating at my ear. He's like, what?
So chaotic.
What? But Rome knows what he's doing. Rome is I really enjoy a through and through villain on the show that doesn't win and is there to be a villain. And I hate that, like, we finally got one. Like, the show, like, was okay with finally portraying one that way and not, like, trying to make him empathetic and, like, trying to make him have, like, here's all of his positive traits. Here's a sob story. No, they just let him be a villain. And then everybody's like, yes, people, isn't this what we were asking for? Anyways, so that's my little Rome mini rant. Overall, solid season. Has quite a few iconic moments. One is that Rachel literally had to do that journey, the only journey that I think was a good one in a way where it's like memorable, only because of the potential that she could have got ripped into the ocean doing that ball puzzle out in the water, whatever that ball puzzle was. Like, they tried redoing it in 50 and then it ends up being way worse for multiple reasons. Like, they tried let's bring him back on the water. I was like, yes, the ball puzzle. Oh no, it's making a puzzle and Jimmy Fallon's going to screw over Christian. Great. Yeah, fantastic. Whereas here is like the best journey ever, because like the hilarity that Rachel could have got her hand stuck with those balls, Rebekah, the way they were, and could have got ripped into the ocean. 10 out of 10.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Absolutely incredible. Yeah, probably. I don't want to say definitively this is the only journey that I like, but it might be the only one that I like. Definitely very memorable. Like you were saying, so many good characters. You mentioned Rome. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Genevieve. Even like Andy, I feel like he was really good at like, he brought a very fun energy, maybe even like a chaotic energy to the show, but also at the same time, like he was strategic. The whole like Operation Italy thing that he helped, coordinate and come up with and all of that. Like, yeah, just, I mean, I feel like he kind of had the best of both worlds and made for really good TV. There was the whole rice thief moment where Rachel like tried to steal rice from a challenge that I just remember being super iconic. And I don't think Jeff even noticed. I think he, like, one of the producers had to point it out because he like called her out afterwards and just had to empty her pockets of rice that she had collected.
Iconic that she tried it though. Like
so
40
good.
chess. He's like,
Absolutely.
I'm not getting supplied ever again. Nobody's ever doing this nonsense where they get to bend the rules. Because nobody ever said they couldn't take the rice from the challenge until he said that to her.
Yeah.
Right.
And again, it's one of those things like ask forgiveness rather than asking for permission.
On
like,
Survivor,
just go for it.
Yep.
And I think like I just am such a big fan of Rachel as a player. And so like, I'm obviously happy that she won. But I think the reason I like her so much is because she was constantly like trying to come up with new ways to play the game. And I think that's something that I'm not saying no one has done that in the new era, but it is much more rare than it used to be because it's a lot more of just people like staying within the bounds of Survivor. And maybe that's what the open era is about, is players that aren't going to play within the rules. But like, but with Rachel, like the rice thief moment is an example, but also specifically the moment when she like played the shot in the dark to gauge whether or not she should play her idol, to just like see everyone's reactions to her playing the shot in the dark. It was, okay, that was a new way to play with the tools that we've had in the season for like, 7 seasons now? And it was a new thing that no one had tried before. And it, worked in her favor. Like she realized like, okay, I don't need to play the idol right now. I'm good to keep it for another day. So I really liked the smart way that she played the game. There were also just some fun things like when she got the idol, just her having to like cut it out of the shelter while everyone was in camp was just so chaotic and fun and just edge of your seat moment. So yeah, there's definitely like a lot of very memorable things from this season. There's players that I would like to see play again.
Andy crashed out and then John gets voted off instead.
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. There was that moment when Sue got covered in like red paint and then they were like, is that blood? Like that was so funny.
What about Genevieve?
Yeah, Genevieve just
and her third eye.
Yes, being Bobavive. Well, she wasn't Bobavive yet. That was her in 50.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, just so fun. I would love to see Genevieve play again. Sue being a pilot. There's so many things.
And
so many
Sue
things.
was like, I'm only 45 instead of 58.
Yes.
And it's like, why would this be different?
That tribal, it was like one of the later tribals where Teeny was like yelling at Sam because he was the type of guy who would have gotten asked to like help with the chairs or something. Like,
no, she was that tribal. It was Sam went on a reward. That was I think that was the Operation Italy reward. I could be wrong. And she's like, oh my gosh, he probably was asked by the teacher to pick up chairs and bring them to the side of the room. It's like, what? This sounds like some personal trauma. You need a therapy.
There was a lot going on there, but just that quote and that moment was just so like, again, iconic and just incredible TV. So really strong cast of players for this season. And I think that, again, it just, they kept things very entertaining through the 90-minute episode. So I think this is just a really solid season overall.
Kyle gets third in an immunity challenge, but somehow gets the necklace around his neck because that's how the Survivor logistically worked it out. And they, mind you, they never did it again, but they did it this season. I don't know why.
Well, and wasn't that, it was like men versus women or something like that?
Gosh, it was something like that.
Or it was like two groups
I think it was the
somehow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Jeff kept like mentioning like how many times he'd won immunity, and it was sort of one more because like Genevieve and someone else I think had technically beat him in that challenge, but because
Genevieve
he like
and
won
Teeny
immunity.
Both beat him.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And it was just like,
he gets
I mean, if I was
necklace.
Kyle, I'd be like, Jeff, stop Stop! You're overhyping me.
They gave him the necklace, and then he proceeds to say Kyle's won that immunity challenge. Like, I guess, but like, did Genevieve and Teeny not win that immunity? So it was like it's definitely a season full of like good stuff and like what stuff at the same time, and it really works out. Andy ends up having a massive turnaround because he's viewed as a goat. And by the end, he's like, Rachel's like, oh my gosh, Andy's a massive threat. I need to get rid of him. So like a huge journey for him from his crashing out in episode 1. So yeah, definitely a solid season. I don't like it as much as 46, but I do have it pretty highly ranked in my opinion. It's in my top 5. It's number 5 for me.
Okay. It is actually number 2 for me. I like this season a lot.
Mary has it at 3. Madison has it at 8.
Okay. Wow. Is that the most divisive season so far? It's pretty close.
It seems like one of us is always low on a season that nobody else is low on, and this time it's Madison. Overall, ends up being our 4th season. So we've already talked about our top 4 overall seasons, we haven't. We haven't talked about our number 1 overall, but yes, it can only go downhill from here. Let's put it that way after 47. So in my opinion, 45 through 47, like a good trilogy of seasons, like. Definitely like, here's what the new era could be. Here's what the new era's potential is. I think the new era potential peaked in 46 personally. You think it was 47 is the best season, but I think the new era potential has basically been peaked. Like, can we continue it is probably the better question than can we top it? Because I don't know if they could top it. Considering the fact that this era, they're so stubborn about doing the same things over and over again, which I hope is going to be remedied in the open era. I go with the opposite. So I don't know why they felt constrained during this themeless era where there's no themes in a season, why they constrain themselves to do the same stuff over and over. But yeah, hopefully the open era, they change that. Anyways, 48 is definitely a season of Survivor that happened. Like, people played in Fiji for 26 days. A winner was crowned. And this is not a knock on the winner, because the winner is actually a good winner. It's just that this season, what a disappointment. I think it was really run by people who didn't want things to happen, and that's kind of what ended up happening. You have people making really far, like Mitch and his big move, still waiting on it. Shaheen, hyped up as like this, like they give him a lot of hype, and then I went back and made a story video because somebody picked it, as like they won the fantasy league and picked it, and then I made a story video and I realized like I finished all of my notes for all the episodes he's in. I was like, Shaheen didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Like, gameplay wise, he just had good confessionals and an epic beard.
His beard was epic. Yeah.
Kyle and Camilla's secret alliance, 10 out of 10, because it made the fact that carried over to 50 and Joe crashes out over it.
Yeah.
Joe's like, what? They had a secret alliance that whole time? Kyle, like literally I think it was 36 times on the season it was mentioned that Kyle and Camilla had a secret alliance.
That's
36.
wild.
And it was all in the second half of the season. Like, they couldn't stop reminding us.
Yeah. Because I don't think they mentioned it much until like, halfway through or something like that.
Yeah, it wasn't until the post-merge. I think like they had a secret alliance that saved them when they had that tribe swap, but it was like that episode briefly, and then they really went hard on it in the last few episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would say this season is probably one that does not benefit by having 90-minute episodes because of the way people played. And again, I don't want to like knock, like I think Kyle deserved the win because I think anyone who wins Survivor deserves it.
Eva hoarding all the advantages.
Yeah, well, yeah. But I think like you were saying, if the general vibe of the group is like not making big moves, don't make a big move so you don't get voted out, but also it's not going to be that entertaining to watch on TV. So it's like, I think they played correctly given the people that they were playing with, but ultimately as I'm like watching it on TV, it's not like as entertaining as other seasons that are more messy or chaotic, you know?
Yes, I agree. There were some people, the thing is like the potential of the season was higher because I do like some people, like I like Eva, I like Joe this season. I like Kyle. I want to be specific which season I like Joe on. I like Joe this season. Yeah. David, of course, was a great character. I really think once David went, by the way, David's assessment of what was happening was correct, and he got voted off by Joe, who can't read a book on Survivor. Like Joe, if Survivor is a book, Joe isn't reading books. Let's put it that way. So once David gets voted off, the season for me tanked, and it wasn't doing super hot before that. It's just that I was rooting for David. I really like David.
Yeah. Yeah. David is definitely the one I think Well, him and maybe Camilla, but like in terms of people I would love to see come back from this season, David is definitely number one because like I think that like you're saying he had a really good read socially, but he just wasn't like playing the game with other people who wanted to make moves in the same way that he did. So I think if he were on a different season with different people, obviously it would be different. And hopefully he would have more opportunity to play the way that I think he's maybe more inclined to play. And maybe, you know, like, yeah, just make more moves.
Could you imagine if David was on 45, 46, or 47? It would only have elevated those seasons, any of them that he was on.
Absolutely. But it would have made 48 so much worse just by not having him, you know?
But 48's not very good to begin with, so.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, and I will say, like, overall, I agree with you that I like Kyle as a winner. I do think, like, they kind of undercut him in a lot of ways in the edit. I mean, I think of, like, that one moment in where they're at Tribal and he's talking, and they literally, like, muted him so we could focus on what what Joe was thinking about in that moment. And it was just like, okay, you're literally muting the eventual winner of this season so that we can see this scene from Joe's perspective, and then Joe doesn't end up winning. So there's a couple interesting editing decisions, but also like, I mean, they left in the scene where David was talking about how he like lives in a trailer in front of his dad's house, and Kyle was like, oh, that's awesome, like not reading the room, and David was like, no, it's not. It sucks. My girlfriend's gonna break up with me.
Oh, by the way,
why would that be awesome?
If David doesn't win Survivor, his girlfriend's going to break up with him. And he doesn't win, and they do. And apparently he says it's okay. Like afterwards, he's like, it's fine. Obviously, that shouldn't be the end all be all to a relationship. David also really loves the movie Notting Hill, and I also really love Notting Hill. And I recommend everybody who enjoys a rom-com who hasn't seen it, watch Notting Hill. If you enjoy rom-com, watch Notting Hill. Top best rom-com ever for me, but I would say it was a huge hit when it came out for a reason. Okay, all right, but fair enough. This cast just had like a lot of misses. Cedric, I know that's funny to joke that he was chaotically voting for everyone with no rhyme or reason. The fact that he's the only one who votes for Joe at the end, and Joe can't get a vote on the 50 finale, like Joe's only vote in 2 final tribals is from Cedric, and like I don't even know why he voted for Joe. Yeah. I think that's because Joe is also a father, and Eva nor Kyle were parents. I'm like, yeah, but like, did Joe play the best game, Cedric, or?
He was still thinking about the glint in Kenzie's eye. He was like, oh, I'll vote for Joe.
He's running that Maria logic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Eva and Joe's relationship was good. It got played into way too much, I think. Like like it was fun at the beginning, and I think it really peaked with the episode that they ended up doing an Emmy nomination for. That I can't believe Survivor foolishly thought they were going to win anything. Like the season was a wreck, and like the fan base is vocally like the season is a boring doll fest. Like the fan base needs to be behind the season if you're going to convince like the Oscar or whoever the Emmy voters to vote. But like the episode was good, but it also was like that was it in terms of like they overplayed the relationship.
Yes, the season definitely had a few highs, but even like that. I feel like ultimately the fact that they played into Joe and Eva's relationship so much ultimately kind of hurt the season because of how they ended up placing, because it overshadowed Kyle so much. I remember when we were podcasting about this, I kept using the term third wheel, like Kyle's the third wheel in his own season.
Yeah.
And I think like
literally drown out Kyle at Tribal to get Joe's thoughts.
Yes.
What?
And so it's very much like that's, you know, a lot of that is editing. Like I'm not blaming Kyle for that, but it is
Kyle was editing the show so he could edit himself.
Oh, he was in the editing booth.
Him and Erica both in the booth, making their edits worse for no reason.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So yeah, unfortunately, sort of I don't know. I would use the word boring to describe the season, and that's not like a word that I want to use to describe a season of Survivor.
There are moments, but it's not. The overall season is not. It's nothing to write home about.
Yeah, I like Kyle and Camilla. I think that the way they played together was really fun. I wish we would have gotten to see more of them playing together on 50, but but it ultimately wasn't enough in season 48 for me to enjoy the season. It wasn't enough to carry the season.
Where do you have it ranked?
I have it ranked pretty low. It's at number 8 for me.
It's number 6 for me, but I want to be extremely clear. The gap between 5 and 6 is much larger than those numbers indicate, because 47 is number 5 and I really enjoyed it. 48 was boring with some moments and it's number 6. Like there is a gap between 5 and 6. Like 1 through 5, I would rewatch. 6 through 10, like I'm gonna need a lot of caffeine. Okay, like I'm gonna need a lot of convincing.
That's exactly the same for me. Yeah, my top 5 I would watch again. The bottom 5 are honestly all relatively close. There's a pretty big gap there.
Yeah, you got to pay me to rewatch my number 6 through 10. Is how I feel.
Yes.
So yeah, 48 has moments. Again, I think like, and it's nothing again. And we'll do winner rankings. Kyle will not be. I haven't done my winner rankings yet, but he's not going to be knocked for. He is better than the season he won, I guess. Let's put it that way.
Agreed.
He's better than the season he won. So, all right, let's move on to Survivor 49. This is a season that just recently happened.
Did you say Mary Madison's rankings for 48?
And
I'm curious about 48. Overall.
Yes, Mary gave it number 4. What?
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Madison,
That's
number
surprising.
5 overall. 48 ends up being 7. You and I, we kept it in check, Rebecca.
That's respectable. Yeah, I like that.
Number 7 for 48. Let's move on to Survivor 49. This one just aired. Survivor 49 is a season that, honest to goodness, felt like 2 people were playing Survivor and the rest weren't. And I think that's the best way to describe it. And that's not a good thing, because Ghost Island felt like that. Season 36, it felt like 2 people were playing Survivor and everyone else was just letting it happen. And that's what this season felt like. Riz, God, and Savannah, the 2 people they brought back. I guess it was fortuitous that there was a turnee season on the horizon, because these are the only 2 worth bringing back from what I saw this season. Though I will say, Sophie S. telling Jeff that a reward was diet food. Though the show made sure to show everyone going, what? No, that's crazy. No, Sophie S. was right. It was diet food. Shannon was an exception as well, saying just the most asinine out there things. But that's not good gameplay. These are just asinine things being said by Shannon.
Yeah.
Yes. When Matt revealed I used to work in finance, Savannah's like, that means he's a literal psychopath. And they're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
There are moments this season, but gameplay wise, I know a lot of people value that, and I do as well. Gameplay felt like it's just 2 people with Riz, God, Savannah.
I think like maybe the best thing to sort of like, I don't know, as an example of what you're describing, that there were really only 2 people playing, is I think of that scene where I believe Savannah was talking to Christina, and like they were on opposite sides of a vote. I forget exactly when this happened, but basically Savannah was like asking Christina who she was going to vote for.
And that was the entire question.
She like needed to take a seat. She was like, I feel dizzy. I don't know how to respond to that. And it was like, you can lie to her. Like, you don't have to tell the truth, but it was very much just like something that was such a core part of the game, seemed like a lot of people weren't interested in doing. And, you know, for better or for worse, like if that's the group of people that you're working with, like, you know, sitting on your hands may be the best way to not get voted off. Because if you're trying to make big moves, maybe that just puts a target on your back, because people don't want to be around someone who's trying to, you know, play the game. I'm not going to like fault certain players for like playing that way necessarily, but it does make for boring TV, and it's not like a season that I want to rewatch necessarily.
Rizgod literally fake idol playing like 4 different tribals. That kind of energy was fun, but it also showed how bad the cast was that they kept letting him do it. Because unlike 50, it didn't feel like him hanging on his idol was just a result of him being somebody who everyone thought they could beat. In this situation, it was like, well, he has an idol, so we can't get rid of him. Like, what kind of like old era, like pre-HD thinking is that? You know, like, holy cow, split the vote on him. But Rizgod had just enough numbers to make that, I guess, impossible. And that's just like, this shouldn't have been that hard. And he lost in fire, but my goodness. Savannah out here making everyone else look like a fool despite being a villain that they tried to make empathetic. I know Dee and Kenzie, they did as well, but Savannah was like almost the closest we got an actual villain winner. And they were like, they worked so hard to make her empathetic. They worked so hard. Yeah,
but even then, like, I also feel like the way that she played wasn't that crazy. I mean, like, my interpretation, again, I wasn't on the island with them, of course, obviously, but just like from what we saw on TV, it really just seemed like Savannah was maybe a little blunt or like straightforward, which is just a way that like a lot of people communicate. But I think that was really like jarring for a lot of the players that she was playing with. And so because of that, she kind of got this like villain narrative that I personally didn't feel like she really deserved, just based on what we saw. And I'm all for villains. Like, to be clear, I want more villains on my TV. But I guess I just think back to like someone like Russell Hantz, or even like, not that I would consider Sandra a villain, but like she would get loud at people when there was like disagreements or whatever. And then you contrast that with like, yeah, again, Savannah like asking Christina who she's going to vote for. And that's like a huge thing. And it's like, oh, Savannah's such a villain because she asked a question. And it's just like, I don't know, like I don't fully, I think the show kind of wanted her to be more of a villain than she was. But also at the same time, like, yeah, like I think she maybe was more of a villain than most of the people that we've gotten in the new era. So I understand that narrative, but I also don't, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know. I want her to like, again, double down, be more villainous. Like if you're going to be a villain, like I want a villain who's like being chaotic. But yeah, again, not to knock her, because clearly the way that she played was enough to win and she deserved the win. But it just doesn't make for as entertaining TV.
Yeah, I enjoyed Rizgod this season. 50, I didn't as much, and that's, I think, because he was just wiped. From what I saw and heard, it looked like the guy with 0% body fat needed some body fat for 50. But this season,
ooh, yeah, being out there for like 2 months gotta take a toll.
This season he was running high, and you could tell it was fun. Christina though did redeem herself. I maybe you just mentioned this, but Christina redeemed herself when she asked that question at Final Tribal of like,
oh,
Savannah.
I didn't mention that. That was an incredible question.
Go ahead. Tell them everybody. I tell Rebekah.
Oh yeah. Cause she asked Savannah like, basically something about like, hey, like prove that you know people on the jury outside of the game, have a personal connection. What's the name of, like, name a relative for everyone on the jury. And that was such a solid question. And like Savannah kind of didn't want to answer it because she like couldn't fully. And Christina like really pressed it. It was like, no, you have to answer this question. Like, even if the answer is, I don't know anyone for this person, like that's fine, but you have to at least make an attempt. And yeah, that was one of the better jury questions that we've had in a long time. Yeah, it was an incredible question coming from Christina of all people. But yeah, I agree. She definitely redeemed herself for sure.
Savannah's like, Christina, I think I said do it for your kids, and then like what she actually said early season was do it for your mom. Like, and there's a little word there where I blanked. She's like, she was like, MC, I don't remember. Jawan, I don't remember. Like anybody in your family. It's like really exposing. But I think this season does have a little value in terms of the teaching. I mentioned that 43 taught us, like, if the jury tells you to your face what you should do and you choose to ignore them, you're going to reap the consequences and lose. Well, Sophie B, in my personal opinion, is an example of sitting on your hands and letting the big threat go to the end. Sophie B could have chosen to get out Savannah. She put her in fire, I guess, I guess it was like a last ditch effort, but she didn't it wasn't like her. She put Rizgod, who apparently is notoriously horrendous at fire, and it basically gave Savannah the win doing that. And she's like, God told me while I was eating food with my Mexican fiesta hat on at the sanctuary not to vote off Savannah. He did? Okay. Like, you know what I mean? It was a classic example of sitting on your hands leading to a loss. She got second place. 100K is nothing to sneeze at. But could Sophie B had won had she eliminated Savannah is the question, you know? Had Rizgod and Savannah both went out and she sits next to Sage and Christina, because Christina's the one right before Rizgod, I think Sophie B wins. But because she sat in her hands and let Savannah get as far as she did, she lost.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those like lessons. Like, I enjoy a good lesson of like, here's what not to do and here's what to do, but here's what not to do. And it's like, don't sit on your hands. Sophie B was made to look like a fool by sitting on her hands for far too long, and that knowledge is power. And she tried to play on Steven and she got burned.
Yeah.
I remember I got lambasted for saying she should have played it earlier. People were like, no. And I'm like, oh no.
Yeah. I think there were some nuances to that, because I forget what Steven's advantage was, because I do also remember this being part of the conversation where like the way that he played it was just like telling a producer during a confessional, like, hey, I'm going to play this advantage. I forget what it was. It was like block a vote or something. Or like, I don't even remember. That's how forgettable this season was.
Yeah.
Like the one advantage that was played. It was like less than a year ago. And I could look it up. But yeah, it's one of those things that it was just like, I think maybe interesting ideas for the twists and advantages and stuff, but like just executed in such a boring way. Like just having him tell a producer like, oh, I'm going to play this. It's like, that's not really interesting TV. What's more interesting is like, yeah, when you're at Tribal and you've got Rizzo like pulling out an idol, like, hey, I have an idol, like, don't vote for me. Like, that's where it gets more interesting. So yeah, I don't know. Again, maybe some good ideas there, but just unfortunately the execution for most things in this season was disappointing at best.
Yes, and it's just, I don't know. The fact that it just happened and like I'm forgetting. I can over here recall like specific things at 43 and 46 and it's just because I really enjoyed the seasons, heck 45, 47, but like the fact I'm struggling with 49 says a lot. It's just kind of a I can't believe I didn't even mention this. Jake got bit by a snake, but then it was like a dry bite. Nothing even happened to him, but they're like, well, mentally you might you might get PTSD, so we have to pull you. Something like that. Like you might be mentally ruined because of this dry bite. Therefore, we must pull you from the game. Wait, what?
Yeah. Well, and this is something we didn't really talk about yet, but I feel like this season was so overshadowed by 50 anyway. Like there was so much, like, I think we knew the cast for 50. I don't know if we knew it when 49 started airing, but we learned about it and like there was so much hype for 50. It was going to be the first returnee season. We knew that, you know, 2 people from 49 were going to be returning on 50. So I think we were kind of watching Savannah and Rizzo more anyway to be like, okay, what did they do that got them cast on 50?
Yeah, it's impossible not to mention that we knew Savannah had won because of the way they split the tribes on 50. And we already knew how the tribes were split ahead of time. Yeah.
Yes, I think that's another factor that just kind of made this less interesting to watch because we sort of knew the outcome of at least who was going to win.
Right, during the season because Survivor spoiled it themselves. And we don't do spoilers on this channel, and they spoiled it themselves.
Yeah. I
hate that.
And it's you know, that's not to say like a season before a big season like 50 still can be a good season. It was just that this one, unfortunately, was not. It was just kind of bland, and also we were just so focused on 50, like just mentally hyping up for it. You know, it was just kind of like, okay, we got to get through this season so we can get to 50. And that's never a good way to watch a season of Survivor.
Right. So how do you have 49 ranked, Rebekah?
It is at number 7 for me, which frankly is like a little high, but once again, like there's such a gap between my top 5 seasons and bottom 5 seasons. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's at 7 for me. What about for you?
Well, for me, I have 49 ranked at number 7 as well. I agree with you. Mary has it ranked at 5. Madison has it ranked at 6. So its overall ranking is 8.
I feel good about that. That's fair.
Yeah. I don't know why Mary has it at 5, but
yeah,
it's there. It's there. Well, next time, hopefully we get Mary and Madison. It was really why we didn't have both of them. Madison, just Mary and Madison both have personal things. They couldn't do the podcast in a timely manner. That's the best way to put it. Like we would have had to record this much later to get everybody. So Rebekah is here, thankfully, and we can, but I don't know. So why did they rank it the way they did? Oh, well, find out next time on Survivor. Okay. So let's talk about the final season, the one that just aired. It's freshest in our brains. Rebekah, I want you to lead off. Survivor 50.
Yeah, I feel like this might be the most controversial one based on our rankings. I frankly loved this season. And maybe this is just a hot take in general, but yeah, I love this season. I love that Aubrey won. This is the season of Survivor that I think I've like been the most emotional watching, just because there were so many players coming back that we hadn't seen in forever. This was my first season watching live where we had any returning players, because the first season that I watched live was 43. Everything before that had been just, you know, after the fact. I'd binge watched it. So
to be clear, I've been watching live since season 2 in case people are like, oh no, it's just new era. No, it's Rebekah's more of a different take than me because she started watching live later than me. Okay.
I discovered the show a little later in life. I say as if I'm super old, but yeah, just, you know, I didn't like grow up watching the show. I discovered it later, binge watched it, and, you know, so this is the first one that I watched live with returning players, and it was just, I don't know, I just enjoyed it so much. We got the first live finale, which obviously had so much chaos accidental spoilers during the live finale. I feel like a lot of great players, a lot of great characters. I mean, yeah, we had storylines, dating back, I don't even know how many seasons, with like the whole Coach and Ozzy thing. Yeah, there's just so much good to say about the season. It was not a perfect season by far. I understand there were too many celebrities. There were some issues with, like, I don't know, the Boomerang Idol, I think, was a cool idea in theory. I don't think it was executed super well. Like, we obviously didn't really get to see that pay off. So I'm not arguing by any means that this was a perfect season, but out of the seasons that we're ranking, this is, I mean, spoilers, but my favorite season. There's players that I am so glad we got to see them play again. I think of like Tiffany, Emily, Aubrey, obviously Sari. I mean, this, I don't know if this has been confirmed, but I feel like this is probably Sari's last season of Survivor. So it was just like, there was just so much good to be said about the season, and I just had a really good time watching it. So, yeah, I enjoyed the season a lot, but that might be a hot take. What do you think about this season?
I think Survivor 50 is probably the culmination of the new era, good or bad, because I believe, like 45, it has a strong, and maybe it's controversial, strong first 2/3. For sure, the first 3 episodes are amazing. I don't remember having any issues with the first 3 episodes. The Zach Brown episode 4 is where the issues started to crop up with, like, nobody voted for this, because the promise was, Jeff said, the show is not in the hands of the producers. It's in your guys' hands. You all will decide all these things. And, like, I get, by the way, logistically, why that's probably an impossibility, but he didn't have to make that promise, and he did. And they put it in the opening of episode 1. It wasn't like a thing he said, and they didn't. No, by putting it in the show proper, they have now made it. No, this is official. That's how they're selling the season, but it's not really what happened. So they included a bunch of things that we did not vote for. And the biggest one was the celebrities, and how much of impact the celebrities had. And it just really, I think the biggest issue with this whole fans concept is, okay, celebrities are fans. I guess, but why can't they have an equal say to the rest of us? Why can't they just vote? Why does their vote count for so much more? And especially when one of them is Billie Eilish, and she didn't even watch 50 from what we could see, and basically laughed at the concept of her having an idol. Like, I guess all the celebrities weren't on the same page about the fact that they should be promoting the show. So you get that, and then you get Jeff at one point, like, I'm a fan of the show. Oh, okay. So are we set? So
are all the producers. Yeah. Right.
So the pieces tell me that either A, everyone is a fan, therefore everyone gets a say, which is how it's always been, by the way. Like, it's Jeff, you've always had a say. Can't one season you don't have a say? Nope. Jeff's a fan as well. Though it did lead into Jeff competing. So earlier I said that it peaked with Jeff stabbing the rice. I think Jeff competing in the challenge was another fantastic moment. It was a 10 out of 10 episode. And it was like, it represents the new era so well. It's like, wow, what an amazing episode we have so far. Dynamics are so interesting between the players. The game is just letting be played out. Jeff's just an addition, a fun aspect of doing the challenge. Like, he was like, 4 of you need to beat me. And then people are scared to beat Jeff in this challenge. So he's like, all right, just 3. I'll settle for 3 or whatever. And it's like, Jeff just really wanted to do it.
He was going to participate in that challenge regardless.
He knew what the marketing would be, and it sure did. We all got excited to see Jeff compete. And for reward in a situation where it's like, the stakes are very clear. Like, there's no judgment call has to be made. It wasn't like a puzzle where Jeff could have practiced. Theoretically, could have practiced ahead of time.
Sure. Yeah.
It was something like, you're either good at this or you're not. So yeah, it was so much fun. There were so many fun things, but then, like, the show would undercut itself. And I think by the time we get to the final 5, I think the air was sucked out of the room, because the thing we talked about earlier, where, like, no winner ever gets skunked, came to a head here, because we get to final 5 and only Rizgod and Aubrey are the only ones not skunked. Rizgod's not winning. We already knew that. But these triple skunked Tiffany, a final 5 player, they did to no one else. And it's just the edit, like, in some ways, it had to hold true to its never skunked the winner, but because of that, it did other people dirty who made it really far. Like, Sari and Rick Devens go out in the penultimate episode, which, by the way, 47 had a 2-part finale, and we all were like, oh, they're, like, practicing for 50. Like, this is like a test run for 50. Kind of like when they did Edge of Extinction on 38 to practice run for Winners at War. but they didn't do a 2-part finale. And they probably should have, so they could have said Suri and Devon's made the finale.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because that would have been the part 1 of the finale.
Those are 2 huge players, huge names. Yeah,
right. To say part 1 of the finale, here's our final 7. Anyway, so Devon's and Suri goes out, and the air sucked out of the room going to the finale. So like that's what I'm saying. Like if it was so much fun when the show would just get out of the way and let the players play the game, but then when the show got in the way, we were all just like moaning and just like, what are they doing? Yeah, I understand that there's 24 people, and therefore you have to get rid of more people than you normally do, but you could have just done, there was very simple ways of doing it, and they try to complicate it. The blood moon, for example, Jeff's like, we're doing this new twist, the blood moon, and he like takes 10 minutes in the episode to explain it. And all it is the split tribal, except there's 3 split tribes.
Instead of 2 tribes.
Instead of 2. That's all it was. It's not new, Jeff. Yeah. It's not new.
Yeah. No, I agree. Again, it's not a perfect season by any means. Just the fact that Genevieve got voted out during that blood moon, and she had found 2 idols this season, but she wasn't able to keep either of them. Like, there again, potentially interesting game mechanics with the idea of a boomerang idol.
That didn't pan out at all.
But execution and or just, luck of the draw, like the people that she sent it to and whatever, like just ended up kind of not working out. Also, I do agree with what you're saying about the edit. I think that is probably the most negative thing that I have to say about this season is just like the skunking people. And especially because it was really rough, because I think after episode 4, they had skunked like 6 people out of the however many remaining players. Was that 20 or 19 players, I think, something like that at the time. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. But like, to skunk like 6 players at that stage in the game, and I think they were all women too. That was like a whole other thing too. That was just, I'm not saying that was intentional on Survivor's part, but it was something just unfortunate that everyone noticed. So yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you. Like, I think there was some work that needed to be done in the edit. Just anyone who makes the finale should not be skunked, because it does make it a little less exciting going into it. But that being said, like, and this is another thing, I've been surprised at the reaction to Aubrey winning, because in my mind, and I'll double down on this, I love Aubrey as a winner. And I was very excited for this to be kind of like, her story arc all the way from Ko Rong. They really like hammered that home this season. But Ko Rong was like one of the early seasons that I watched, and I remember like seeing Aubrey just, struggling early in that season, and then, making it all the way to the end and just being like, wow, that's so inspirational. Like, that's so cool. So for me personally, Aubrey is just someone who, like, I think of as embodying the spirit of Survivor. I know Suri got the Spirit of Survivor award, but I think Aubrey could also earn that as well. So all of that to say, like, I've been very surprised. I've seen people like say that that they like just don't like her as a winner. Like, I saw someone said she's like top 40 winners. I'm like, out of the 48 winners that we've had.
Well, I know during our finale podcast, I was like, I think she's gonna, with the fans, she's gonna end up being in the top 12. And people are like, what? She's not even like a top 40 winner. And I'm like, oh, maybe I misread this.
Because I think for me, she's like top 5, maybe top 7. But and again, I'll stand 10 toes down on that. That's fine if people don't agree with that. But yeah, I've been very surprised at how controversial her win is. But for me personally, I love her winning, and that contributes to how much I enjoy season 50. So anyway, those are my thoughts on season 50.
Yeah, I think season 50 was good when they got out of the way and let the players play, and was bad when they threw in unnecessary dynamic twists and advantages and whatever else that we voted for. I think a big sour point is it felt like it was in the hands of Jeff. And if you look at the questions for things that ultimately don't matter, like what does the immunity necklace idol look like? Like there was 2 options, not a bunch, 2. And ultimately the show doesn't care. So they just made it a very obvious binary choice with no slant in the question. But then it's like, do you want fire making? Fire making has brought some of the greatest moments ever in the history of the show. Even when Jeff was presenting 50, he's like, just last season, Teenie and Sam had one of the best fire. It was so intense. But if you want to get rid of that, you can do that. And it's like, that's how the questions were slanted when it was stuff that the show wanted. So like, it's like, do you want fire making? Why would I say no? And it's like, that's how the questions were worded. And it just led to like obvious results. So like all season we're like, there's going to be fire making. People in the comments like, oh, there could not be fire making. I'm like, yeah, I saw the questions were worded. So we kind of, it took a lot of the excitement out to like, I already know where this is headed on the stuff we voted for, because once like the first round of things were revealed and early in the season, it's like, oh, okay. Nothing, there's no surprises in terms of how we voted in quote unquote, but it's hard to say because 50 was like a good season. And if it had gotten out of its own way, I think it could have been a top 5, top 10 season had it gotten out of its own way, but it got in its own way so often. They're lucky the Mr. Beast thing worked out because the Fallon thing flopped. Billie Eilish, as we mentioned earlier, like basically like joked on the fact that Survivor had an idol named after her, which is not what you would expect of somebody whose name was dropped 60 plus times this season on the show as free promotion. Fallon's actually a fan. Mr. Beast did good cross promotions. The only one that actually worked out. And I think it's because he was the last one shown. And Jeff, this is why I said earlier, like, this is one of the things he's like, he doubled down. He's like, no way. He's like, if anything, I wish we had more Zach Brown. But like, then the Mr. Beast thing shows me that no, they listened. They just won't acknowledge it because I think there was a lot more Mr. Beast originally. Mr. Beast even went on a interview with somebody and said, oh yeah, I saw how the Zach Brown thing was received. And so I don't know, in his most Mr. Beast PR, that like forced smile he always has on his face way, said that we're going to adjust the episode. And it's me paraphrasing. It's not what he said word for word, but it sounded a lot like, if I have my say in this, we're going to adjust it to not be like Zach Brown. And Jeff said, absolutely not. We edit these episodes a month and a half in advance. We didn't change a darn thing. But like, that's not what it looked like when I watched it. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I mean. Yeah. It's like, it's the opposite. They double down and then secretly do it. I don't know. It's so strange. I'm going to do it even harder now. Okay. All right. If you say so.
Yeah. Well, and also, the auction this season, I feel like was really good. I know that was the same episode as the Mr. Beast thing, but yeah.
The auction was the best all new era. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, just the fact that when they went in and sat down and Jeff was like, you all have the same amount of money. You can't lose your vote. Basic auction. As soon as he said that, I was like, yes.
Well, he did say that there's a risk of something chaotic happening, but all ended up being was like gross food, which was the best version, I think.
Different terminology for things we've seen before, which I'm fine with. Like it executed in a very good way. Aubrey just like, because I think she was with Rizzo and they had to like eat some bugs or something. And Jeff was like, one of you has to do this to get the cookies. And Aubrey's like, that's fine. I'll do it. Yeah, no worries. And then like Jeff had barely uncovered the grubs or whatever. And Aubrey's like, just diving
shoving
in,
like, down her throat.
Let me go. She's like going over to show everyone else who's like sitting down, like, show us the grubs or whatever. Like, that was so fun. And just what an iconic moment. I don't know. I'm a big fan of Aubrey, obviously. So I really enjoyed that whole bit as well. Like you said, best auction of the new era for sure.
For sure. So all that being said, where do you rank Survivor 50?
For me, it is number 1.
Wow. For me, it is number 3. For Mary, it's number 2. And for Madison, it's number 4.
Wow.
Again, the cast makes the season. So despite how much nonsense they shoved into the show and the fact that the final 5 was kind of like a bummer. And it was like half the fact that like people like Joe made it far after, like most people weren't excited to see Joe back, but also like the show did not make the whole final 5 feel like contenders, despite this season having the most screen time of any season. Like there were longer, there was more 2-hour episodes. The premiere was 3 hours. There's so much extra time. And I know they had more people, but they still failed to make the entire, that should have been the easiest slam dunk, to make the entire final 5 feel like a contender. And they didn't do that. Well, Tiffany was under edited for somebody who's apparently was a massive threat to win.
Yeah. One thing I will say that I don't necessarily think like CBS would do this on purpose, but I think some of the chaos and also just like, I guess even just the energy, the excitement of doing the live finale definitely helped what I think would have otherwise been a more boring episode. Because, and I'm not even just talking about the spoilers. I don't think that they planned that at all. That's not what I'm saying. But the spoilers thing, like, that was very exciting and chaotic. But even things like they brought Sari out and gave her like this trophy for the spirit of Survivor. And then like the next segment that they did live, they brought Ozzy out and gave him a t-shirt. Like, That's hilarious.
That's so backwards.
So funny.
It's so funny.
Like, so I think stuff like that and the fact that it was interspersed, because I agree with you, like the final 5, like I think that episode could have been relatively boring / predictable, but I think the live element really did invigorate that episode. And just the fact it had been so long since we'd had a live reunion or a live finale was just really fun. So, yeah, I think there were, again, it was not a perfect season, but just out of the 10 seasons of this new era, it was my favorite. So,
yeah, I think it was a good season. Potential was there to be better, but it's kind of like Winners of War is what it reminds me of. Like Winners of War stuffed too much. I mean, crazy that they did that in 42 minutes. They stuffed too much. And I think it was ultimately saved by Tony winning Winners of War, because the final 6, I think most people were disappointed by, with the exception of Tony, that season, from what I remember. It's important to remember. I think this is a pro tip. If you listen this far on the podcast for the next returnee season, if you want to call the winner without being spoiled, it's very important, because I know people love to try to post spoilers. So annoying. If you want to try to call the winner ahead of time, like I had Aubrey, I think number 2 going in the season, and of course I had Jenna like in my top 5, and that didn't work out at all. I was really going based off of, and I said this, I'm like, okay, have I seen potential for this person go deep? And did this person tank their last game? Aubrey tanked EOE. So she came into this season with low expectations. She was also under edited in Game Changers when she got Final 5. That's why only thing you hear on the season is go wrong, because she's played 2 more times, and it like either was under edited or tanked. And it's like, I think that actually helped. It helped her make it further. It really did. People want to mention Go Wrong, but like, shoot, that was a decade ago.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a great point. And that is also a good reason why I think they should bring Genevieve back, because I feel like she came into this season with a pretty high like target on her back, because she, even though she was often playing from the bottom in her original season, she got, I believe, 5th place, if I'm correct
on 47.
about that. She made it very far into the game. And so coming in, she had a big target on her back. But the fact that she went out so early in this season, even though she found 2 idols, like she was out here making moves and like trying to play the game, but she wasn't able to keep the idols. And yeah, like I feel like, you know, she had this feud with Aubrey, but like she ended up losing it. So if they were to bring her back again, I feel like she would fall exactly into that category of what you're saying, of like the ability to play the game well and to make it far in the game, but also come in with a relatively low like threat level. So that's my pitch for them bringing Genevieve back.
Well, we have ranked every New Era season. Down in the comments below, post your New Era rankings. And as always, we really appreciate you all for listening. We'll see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.